to the whoop-de-wop.
Drifting off and getting
We're
away
going
from
to
that.
keep going over it, and I'm going to keep twisting your words.
Whoop-de-wop.
To remind everybody,
Oh
we
my
don't owe
God.
white people. We do not owe white people shit.
It's a place.
I run the risk,
Whoop-de-wop.
and it's not my channel, so I will just drop this fucking link.
Just curious, you know what?
Hand me the whoop-de-wop.
Well, I know it's an Indiana thing.
You got some money?
You know what
We're going to the whoop-de-wop.
I actually don't.
Okay. That's something to do with things.
Throw some cool.
And from a Hoosier, you're going to get certain things that are going to happen.
Well, I do know at one point Indiana was like the center of the Klan.
She was like, cool. And she already know to get my dough. So,
The 23rd.
Good evening. I'm Henry Morgenthau, producer of the program you are about to see. It was recorded almost immediately after the much publicized secret meeting between the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, and a group of leading Negroes invited by author James Baldwin. This program was not planned as a comment on that now historic confrontation on Friday, May 24th. However, I think you will detect a certain emotional spillover from the highly charged atmosphere of the meeting. Mr. Baldwin is interviewed on this occasion by Dr. Kenneth Clark, professor of psychology at the City College of New York. A community leader in his own right, Dr. Clark also took part in the meeting with the Attorney General.
One of the significant things about the present revolution of the Negro people in America is maybe the fact that for the first time there is genuine communication between Negroes and whites. Negroes are saying out loud now things which they have long said only to themselves. Probably one of the most articulate, passionate, and clear communicators to the American conscience is my guest, James Baldwin. James Baldwin's name is known throughout America for saying so passionately, so clearly, and with such grace and style what every Negro has long known and has long felt. Welcome, James. It's good to have this opportunity to talk with you and to have you share with us some of your present feelings about our country, America. But before we get into the issues of the day, I'd like to know a little more about you. I've read practically everything that you have written, but I still would like to know something about you, the young man growing up in Harlem, what schools you went to, maybe a little about some of the teachers that you might have come in contact with in Harlem.
What a funny question. Mm-hmm. My mind is someplace else, really. But to think back on it, I was born in Harlem Hospital, and we grew up, first house I remember was on Park Avenue, which is not the American Park Avenue, or maybe it is the American Park Avenue. Uptown Park Avenue, where the railroad tracks are. And we used to play on the roof and in the, I can't call it an alley, but near the river. It was a kind of dump, garbage dump. And those were the first scenes I remember. I remember my father had trouble keeping us alive. There were 9 of us. And I was the oldest, so I took care of the kids and dealt with Daddy, whom I understand much better now. Part of his problem was he couldn't feed his kids. But I was a kid and I didn't know that. And he was very religious, very rigid. he kept us together, I must say. And when I look back on it, after all, it was nearly 40 years ago that I was born, I think back on my growing up and walks that same block today because it's still there. And think of the kids on that block now. I'm aware that something terrible has happened, which is very hard to describe. I am in all but no technical legal fact a Southerner. My father was born in the South. No, my mother was born in the South.
Welcome to Stanley versus the World, everyone. Let me break in right quick. As the title might suggest, and I said last night, it's going to be a bunch of black stuff. Stuff that I've been. Yeah, I guess I still have this cough, huh? Stuff that I've been stockpiling. Just kind of waiting for a show title to theme the videos with. But the one thing that amazes me is that a lot of these videos, James Baldwin is one, the same stuff has been happening or being talked about for decades. I think, and this is just me spitballing. I don't really have anything, to back this up because I haven't really just thought of it now. We, as a country, tend to focus on the same inner city, big city areas for decades. We know what's going on in Harlem, the blight. We know what's happening in Chicago, the crime. We know what's happening in LA, the gang violence. Do people understand that most black people don't live in Harlem or Chicago or Detroit? How about what's going on where the majority of black people live? It's not that I don't care what goes on in these inner cities, Philadelphia, but I only care so much. I don't live there. I think that one of the things that we do, and I've said this before, we racialize crime. We want to act like everybody lives in Harlem or Philadelphia or fucking New Jersey. We don't. And there are parts of this country, in the South specifically, some of these small towns where a bunch of black people live, and yeah, there's crime, but not like there is in Harlem. We need to fucking stop acting like everything revolves around fucking Oakland. Oakland is an outpost of black culture. It is not a center or a mecca of black culture. And people just don't seem to understand that. So, with that said, everyone, please make sure you hit the like button on the way in. If you're new to the show, please subscribe. Every now and again, you'll get some screed like I just did, agree with it or not. I don't know that this is going to be that long a show. The reason it's so late, I originally scheduled it for 4. I'm just kind of feeling under the weather still. But right now, I actually don't feel too bad. But that's bound to change. So the link will drop at some point. If you want to come up to the panel, feel free to do so. And someone asked earlier, I'm not up to fucking, dealing with CM today. At some point, I will get back to that review, but not tonight.
South. And if they had waited, 2 more seconds, I might have been born in the South. But that means that I was raised by a family whose roots were essentially rural and
Southern rural,
and whose relationship to the church was very direct because it was the only means they had of expressing their pain, and their despair. But 20 years later, the moral authority which was present in the Negro Northern community when I was growing up has vanished. And people talk about progress, and I look at Harlem, which I really know. I know it like I know my hand. And it is much worse there today than it was when I was growing up.
Would you say this is true of the schools too?
It's much worse in the schools.
What school did you go to?
I went to PS 24, went to PS 139.
139. We are fellow alumni. I went to 139.
And I didn't like a lot of my teachers, but I had a couple of teachers who were very nice to me. One was a Negro teacher. And I remember, usually you ask me these questions, so I'm trying to answer you. I remember coming home from school, and you can guess how young I must have been. And my mother asked me if my teacher was colored or white. And I said she was a little bit colored, a little bit white, but because she was about your color. And as a matter of fact, I was right. That's part of the dilemma of being an American Negro, that one is a little bit colored and a little bit white. And not only in physical terms, but in the head and in the heart. And there are days, this is one of them, when you wonder what your role is in this country and what your future is in it. How precisely you're going to reconcile yourself to your situation here, and how you're going to communicate to the vast, heedless, unthinking, cruel white majority that you are here. And to be here means that you can't be anywhere else. I could, in my own person, leave this country, and I could go to Africa, I could go to China, I could go to Russia, I could go to Cuba, but I'm an American. That is a fact.
Yes, Jim.
Am I going ahead and...
No, this is certainly some of the things that we're after. But as I read your writings and know that you came out of PS 24 and my alma mater, junior high school 139.
For some reason or another, this picture, this little smirk James Baldwin has, why does it remind me of JP? I wonder if anybody ever told him he looks like James Baldwin.
I see that no one could write with the feeling and with the skill with which you write if you did not get in PS 24 and 139 a certain type of education. Now, I'd like to go back to the point that you made that the Harlem that you knew when you were growing up is not the Harlem now, and see if we can relate this also even to the school.
Let's see if we can. It was probably very important for me. I haven't thought about this for a long time, so it was probably very important for me that at the point I was going to PS 24, the only Negro school principal, as far as I know, in the entire history of New York, was the principal. It was a woman named Mrs. Ayer. And she liked me. And in a way, I guess she proved to me that I could, that I didn't have to be entirely defined by my circumstances. Because you know that every Negro child knows what his circumstances are, though he can't articulate them. Because he's born into a republic which assures him, in as many ways as it knows how, and has got great force, that he has a certain place and he can never rise above it. And what has happened in Harlem since is that generation has passed away.
Mrs. Ayer was a sort of a model, in a sense.
She was a proof. She was a living proof that I was not necessarily what the country said I was.
And it is
No.
significant, Jim, that we do not have a single Negro principal in the
Yes.
New York public school system today.
And it is not because there ain't nobody around who can do it. You know, one's involved in a very curious and a very serious battle concerning which I think the time is going to be as explicit as one can possibly be. The great victims in this country of the institution called segregation, which is not a Southern custom, but which has been for 100 years a national way of life. The great victims are the white people, the white man's children. Lorraine Hansberry said this afternoon, we were talking about the problem of being a Negro male in this society. Lorraine said that she wasn't too concerned, really, about Negro manhood, since they had managed to do and to endure and to.
Notice they've been talking about Negro manhood. This is from the 60s. And Lorraine Hansberry, Raisin in the Sun. That's that woman who died really early. I think she was in her 30s. Wow. Well, let's try this. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's try it now.
Moral monsters.
Well, Jim, I can
That's
see.
a terrible indictment.
Yes.
And I mean every word I say.
Well, we are confronted with the racial confrontation in America today. I think the pictures of dogs in the hands of human beings attacking other human beings
In a free country.
in a free country,
In the middle of the 20th century.
This Birmingham is clearly not restricted to Birmingham, as you so eloquently pointed out. What do you think can be done to change, to use your term, the moral fiber of America?
I think the one has got to find some way of putting the present administration of this country on the spot. One has got to force somehow from Washington a moral commitment, not to the Negro people, but to the life of this country. It doesn't matter any longer, and I'm speaking for myself, for Jimmy Baldwin, and I think I'm speaking for a great many other Negroes too. It doesn't matter any longer what you do to me. You can put me in jail, you can kill me, but by the time I was 17, you had done everything that you could do to me. The problem now is, how are you going to save yourselves? It was a great shock to me. I want to say this on the air. The Attorney General did not know.
You mean the Attorney General of the United States?
Mr. Robert Kennedy didn't know.
And let me stop this one more time. I don't know whether this is internet altogether or just why are we doing this? It annoys me.
Convincing my nephew to go to Cuba, for example, to liberate the Cubans in defense of a government which now says it is doing everything it can do which cannot liberate me. Now, there are 20 million people in this country, and you can't put them all in jail. I know how my nephew feels. I know how I feel. I know how the cats in the barbershop feel. A boy last week who was 16 in San Francisco told me on television, thank God we got him to talk. Maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now, he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house because San Francisco is engaging, as most northern cities now are engaged in something called urban renewal, which means moving the Negroes out. It means Negro removal. That is what it means. And the federal government is an accomplice to this fact. Now, we're talking about human beings. There's not such a thing as a monolithic wall or some abstraction called the Negro problem. These are Negro boys and girls who at 16 and 17 don't believe the country means anything that it says and don't feel they have any place here on the basis of the performance of the entire country.
But now, Jim...
No, am I exaggerating?
No, I certainly could not say that you're exaggerating. But there is this picture of a group of young Negro college students in the South coming from colleges where the whole system seemed to conspire to keep them from having courage, integrity, clarity, and the willingness to take the risk, which they have been taking for these last 3 or 4 years. Could you react to the student nonviolent movement, which has made such an impact on America, which has affected both Negroes and whites, and seemed to have jolted them out of the lethargy of tokenism and moderation? How do you account for this? Yeah.
Well, of course, one of the things I think that happened, Ken, really, is that in the first place, the Negro has never been as docile as white Americans wanted to believe. That was a myth. We were not singing and dancing down the levee. We were trying to keep alive. We were trying to survive a very brutal system. The Negro has never been happy in his place. What those kids, first of all, prove, they prove that. They come from a long line of fighters. And what they also prove, I want to get to your point, really. What they also prove is not that the Negro has changed, but that the country has arrived at a place where it can no longer contain the revolt. It can no longer, as it could do once, let's say I was a Negro college president and I needed a new chemistry lab. So I was a Negro leader. I was a Negro leader because the white man said I was. And I came to get the new chemistry lab. Please, sir. And the tacit price I paid for the chemistry lab was to control the people I represented. And now, I can't do that. When the boy said this afternoon, we were talking to a Negro student this afternoon who has been through it all, who's half dead, who's about 25.
Jerome Smith.
That's an awful lot to ask a person to bear. The country sat back in admiration before those kids for 3 or 4 or 5 years and has not lifted a finger to help them. Now, we all knew, I know you knew and I knew too, that a moment was coming when we couldn't guarantee, that no one can guarantee that he won't reach the breaking point. You know, you can only survive so many beatings, so much humiliation, so much despair, so many broken promises before something gives. Human beings are not by nature nonviolent. Mm-hmm. Those children had to pay a terrible price in discipline, in moral discipline, and in an interior effort of courage, which the country cannot imagine, because it still thinks Gary Cooper, for example, was a man. And I mean his image. I have nothing against him, him.
You said something that you cannot expect them to remain constantly nonviolent.
No, you can't. You can't. And furthermore, there were always, these students that we're talking about, a minority. The students we're talking about, when I was in Tallahassee, there were some students protesting But there were many, 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 many more students who had given up, who were desperate, and whom Malcolm X can reach, for example, much more easily than I can.
What do you mean?
When Malcolm tells them, in effect, is they should be proud of being black, and God knows that they should be. And that's a very important thing to hear in a country which assures you you should be ashamed of it. Of course, in order to do this, what he does is destroy a truth and invent a history. What he does is say, you're better because you're black. Well, of course, that isn't true. That's the trouble.
Do you think that this is an appealing approach, and that the black Muslims, in preaching black supremacy, seek to exploit the frustration of the Negro?
I don't think, put it as simply as I can, and without trying now to investigate whatever the motives of any given Muslim leader may be, it is the only movement in the country which we can call grassroots. I hate to say that, but it is true. Because it is only when Malcolm talks, or one of the Muslim ministers talk, they articulate for all the Negro people who hear them, who listen to them, they articulate their suffering. The suffering which has been in this country so long denied. That's Malcolm's great authority over any of his audiences. He corroborates their reality. He tells them that they really exist, you know?
Jim, do you think that this is a more effective appeal than the appeal of Martin Luther King?
It's much more sinister because it is much more effective. It's much more effective because it is, after all, comparatively easy to invest a population with a false morale by giving them a false sense of superiority. And it will always break down in a crisis. It's the history of Europe, simply. It's one of the reasons we're in this terrible place. It's one of the reasons that we have 5 cops standing on a black woman's neck in Birmingham. Because at some point they were taught and they believed that they were better than other people because they were white. It leads to a moral bankruptcy. It is inevitable. It cannot but lead there. But my point here is that the country is for the first time worried about the Muslim movement. It shouldn't be worried about the Muslim movement. That's not the problem. The problem is to eliminate the conditions which breed the Muslim movement.
Well, I'd like to come back to get some of your thoughts about the relationship between Martin Luther King's appeal, that is...
Just a couple things that have come up in the chat in the past few minutes. This is, let's see here, 1963. James Baldwin grew up in Harlem like poor. So that he speaks this way is probably kind of a testament to his autodidactism. I bet he didn't grow up speaking that way. To Uniquely's point, most black kids these days have ample opportunity, if they take the opportunity seriously, to read proper English, speak proper English. Which dovetails into, I don't think black kids and their parents are taking full advantage of the opportunities that are presented. Compared to someone like a Kenneth Clark, this is the sociologist, Dr. Kenneth Clark, the James Baldwin. These people, a lot of what they did, or how they sound or appear, self-made, over more adversity than, a lot of kids have these days. A lot of black people in general have these days. So that's your surprises me. And to Dan Er's point, whatever ridiculous notion, what's a real FBA? So the answer is a real ninja? What kind of boneheaded response is that? This is why I don't take a lot of these folks seriously. What is a real FBA? They don't sound like real FBAs because it's 1963 and the concept of an FBA hasn't been invented yet.
Yes.
Effectively, nonviolence and his philosophy of disciplined love for the oppressor.
Martin.
And
Is
what
very-
do you think what is the relationship between this and the reality of the Negro masses?
Well, to leave Martin out of it for a moment, Martin's very rare, very great man. Martin's rare for two reasons. Probably because just because he is, and because he's a real Christian and he really believes in nonviolence. He's arrived at something in himself, which permits him, allows him to do it, and he still has great moral authority in the South. He has none whatever in the North. Poor Martin has gone through God knows what kind of hell to awaken the American conscience. But Martin has reached the end of his rope. There's some things Martin can't do. Martin's only one man. Martin can't solve the nation's central problem by himself. There are lots of people, lots of black people, I mean now, who don't go to church no more and don't listen to Martin, and who anyway are themselves produced by a civilization which has always glorified violence unless the Negro had the gun. So that Martin is undercut by the performance of the country. The country is only concerned about nonviolence if it seems that I'm going to get violent. But it's not worried about nonviolence if it's some Alabama sheriff.
Jim, what do you see deep in the recesses of your own mind as the future of our nation? And I ask that question in that way because I think that the future of the Negro and the future of the nation are linked.
They're indissoluble.
Yeah. Now, what do you see? Are you essentially optimistic or pessimistic? And I really don't want to put words in your mouth because what I really want to find out is what you really believe.
Well, I'm both glad and sorry you asked me that question. I'll do my best to answer it. I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm supposed to be an optimist. I'm supposed to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. But the Negro in this country, the future of the Negro in this country is precisely as bright or as dark as the future of the country. It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they maligned so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. Because I'm not a nigger. I'm a man. But if you think I'm a nigger, it means you need it. The question you got to ask yourself, the white population of this country has got to ask itself, North and South, because it's one country. And for a Negro, there's no difference in the North and the South. There's just a difference in the way they castrate you. But the fact of the castration is the American fact. If I'm not the nigger here, and you invented him, you, the white people, invented him, then you got to find out why.
Well,
and the future of the country depends on that, whether or not it's able to ask that question.
As a Negro and as an American, I can only hope that America has the strength and the capacity,
the moral strength,
to ask and answer that question in affirmative and constructive ways.
To face that question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
This conversation with James Baldwin was recorded as part of a National Educational Television Perspectives program, The Negro and the American Promise. The complete program will be broadcast on this station on the evening of Monday, June 24th. It will also include conversations between Kenneth Clark and Malcolm X, the Black Muslim leader, James Foreman, Executive Secretary of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Yeah, I just this just popped up. I don't even know how many months ago in my algorithm. If I can remember, I'll go and see can I find the other conversations. So, as I promised, this is going to be black stuff. This guy, the guy you're going to see talking here, believe it or not, William Darity. He went to school. He's an economist. I think he's still at Duke University. He is a classmate at MIT of Glenn Lowry. They actually actually know each other. Sandy Darity's been on Glenn's show one or two times. He wrote a book called From Here to Equality, basically laying out a roadmap for reparations. And this is, I guess, a speech or something he gave 2 weeks ago. And figured since reparations comes up every now and again, we'd hear what Dr. Darity has to say.
First, I want to say welcome, Dr. Darity, to The Roots Matter. I so appreciate you actually accepting my invitation for you to come and talk about reparations. And thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's really good. I know that this is like, I don't know if you remember that we actually did an interview together, I want to say in 2020.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So brand new
Yeah.
platform, and it's just me.
Okay. Yeah.
So for the ones who may not necessarily be familiar with you, first thing I'm going to say, what's wrong with you? Are you living under a rock? But if they are still unfamiliar, can you introduce yourself a bit and tell us a little bit about your background in this particular area?
So I am currently a visiting professor at Howard University in their economics department.
Nice.
I retired from my position at Duke in January. I still have a connection because they granted me emeritus status. So I can still use the Duke email if I want to, and I have a parking pass. That's basically the gist of it, right?
Okay, cool.
But I'm really excited about being at Howard's department, and being at a university that still displays a commitment to research on social justice and social equity issues.
Yeah.
Where institutions like Duke have begun to flee from it.
Right.
And in fact, Duke began to flee from it before the Trump election.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my.
So that's another reason why I'm really glad that I now am affiliated with Howard. But in terms of work on reparations, I guess it's accurate to say that I've been involved in thinking about these sorts of issues for close to 40 years. I don't think that I had as clear a vision of what I think reparations should look like till about maybe 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been a long-term project. And when I was initially invited to think about this by Richard America, who is an economist who's based, he was based in Philadelphia. He might be in the DC area now. he asked me to write the introduction to a book of his, which he called The Wealth of Races, as opposed to The Wealth of Nations, The Wealth of Races. And it was a volume that was a collection of essays that he had edited by economists who were seeking to measure the size of a reparations bill. And my reaction to him when he asked me to write the foreword for the book was, this is something that will never happen, so what's the point in doing it or working on it? So at the time, I was a reparations skeptic. And not because I thought it was the wrong thing to do, but because I just thought it was unrealistic for it to ever occur. And Richard said he wanted me to write the foreword, and I could say whatever I pleased, including if I wanted to say that this is a futile mission. And so I agreed to write the foreword. And I think Richard was prescient, because as I'm reading these essays, I became more and more convinced that this was so much the right thing to do, that even if the odds were long, it was something that needed to be worked on. And so I'd say this is circa 1989, 1990. That's when I first began my journey as both an advocate and a researcher on Black reparations specifically.
Gotcha. This is so like when you were entering into that area, that's when, sounds like that's when John Conyers introduced HR 40 for the first time.
That's 1989.
This is actually a good question that Tina asked. I almost never have open panels because people don't come up to the panel much. Unless it says it in the show title, or I happen to say it's open panel, I don't think there's such a thing as an open panel. At least on this show. However, Black stuff is kind of a broad topic, so it could be open-ish. But no, I'm not interested in everything, and my panels almost never are like where you can just come up and, I will say that sometimes people come up and change the direction of the show. And if I like the direction, sure. But like you can come up and just talk about random crazy shit. Almost never.
And also, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I would have to say that I was also a person in my youth that was a reparations skeptic as well. I kind of bought into that idea about merit, because that's what was preached to me growing up. The whole, well, you can go to school and get your degree. You can get a well-paying job, and you can take care of yourself because King marched. And so therefore, and Malcolm X said things too. So since that was the case,
there are no obstacles.
Right, exactly. Right. Like, and like Julie Andrews said, climb every mountain. What mountain? Girl, you good.
Everything in America is racially copacetic now.
Yeah, right. It's all good. Just run through the flowers now, honey.
Yeah.
You got this. And then like when I graduated and then I was seeing that my pay was not as much as I thought that my pay should be, and my, and the things that I was able to gain, and also even looking at like college debt and all these different things, like I was like, something's not right. And I know that a lot of the reasoning about that was behind the something's not right, I learned years and years and years later, a lot from the work that you have done. Reading about the racial wealth gap, I didn't, and even I know that you mentioned this in the book, the first book that you wrote with your wife, which is From Here to Equality.
Yeah.
You talked about the towns that Black Americans built post-slavery, that basically white domestic terrorism burned down,
Yeah.
even found out that they got put underwater,
Yeah.
and then
At the time we wrote the book, we didn't know about that case, but we do now.
Yeah, we do now, right.
we have a new paper coming out that will be in the Journal of African American History that is a coverage of the 100 massacres that were conducted against Black Americans.
Ooh.
And so in addition to Black communities that were destroyed, you also have a number of locations across the country where Black residents were driven out.
Yeah.
And so, we have what we call sundown towns now.
Yes.
And a lot of people assume that the sundown towns always were towns where only white people lived. But actually, that's not the case at all. Quite the contrary. They forced the Black residents out with violence. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think of one town that was not too far from where I went to college, Anna, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah. And Anna stood, even though Anna was, they use it as an acronym. Ain't no niggas allowed. And they even had a bell that rang at 7:00 to
say it's time for y'all to go.
Wow.
Right, exactly. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. And and from what, because I actually read about that in what's that book? I'm looking at it right now. I think it's called Sundown Towns. A specific.
Book?
Yeah.
Yeah, James.
Yeah,
Lowen.
James Lowen. Yeah, and I was, and then when I read about, I was like, wait a minute, Anna's not that far from where I went to school. What do you mean? What? Oh my gosh!
So where did you go to school?
I went to Eastern Illinois University in Charleston, Illinois. But I finished my degree at Millikan University in Decatur, Illinois. But that was all in that same like central southern Illinois area. Yeah. A lot of corn, lots of corn. Dr. Garrity. So yeah, but yeah, I was just like, yeah, this is I think that they mentioned, I believe, that Anna was in Sangamon County, and I was where I went to school was right next to Sangamon County, because like Sangamon County.
Actually, it's a good thing that you began to discover the ways in which the dice are loaded. Because folks who don't recognize that begin to internalize things and think that whatever they're not accomplishing is entirely a consequence of their internal deficiencies.
Right. Yeah.
And then we have a significant number of folks, both in and outside of the Black community. You use the term merit, who assume that Black people are less meritorious than white people.
Right.
And so they're buying into some notion that we have some kind of dysfunctional properties. And this is something that I've been fighting against for years on end. In fact, my argument is that Black people whose ancestors were enslaved in the United States merit reparations.
Mic drop. Yeah. That's bars right there. Speaking of reparations, let's talk about a little reparations right now. So my first question for you is, when people hear the word reparations, the conversation also often gets like emotional or shuts down completely. What do you think is the most misunderstood about reparations right now?
Wow, there's so much. I think that, I think people don't pay much attention to differences in specific plans for reparations. I mean, one of the reasons Kirsten Mullen and I wrote From Here to Equality was to say, and we do in the final chapter, here's the way you could do it. And I think because people don't familiarize themselves with the actual array of ways in which it could be done, they make some assumptions, and very fixed assumptions, about how it would be executed, and how it might be executed to their disadvantage, particularly white Americans. So I think most white Americans frequently think that reparations involves effectively a program where money is taken out of their pockets and put into black pockets directly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that that's one belief that's really significant in terms of creating a barrier to support for reparations.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of other things that I frequently hear, which are more along the lines of, you can't really do it, even though it might be morally justified. And one of the classic things I hear from both Black and white Americans is this idea that if you had a genealogical criteria for eligibility, well, no Black folks can really determine that they had an ancestor who was enslaved in the United States. I frequently hear that, that there's this missing information that would be
Yeah.
impossible to find.
I think you talked a bit about that in your book, especially about one of the places that one could start if lineage is a criteria, was I believe you said the 1872
Census. Yeah,
census. Yeah.
that's the critical one. Yeah.
hmm
If you could identify an ancestor who appears in the 1870 census,
hmm
but they were old enough to be enslaved
hmm
and do not appear in a prior census,
hmm
then that's virtually prima facie evidence that they were enslaved.
hmm
And so it's really critical, if you can get to the point where you can locate an ancestor in the 1870 census,
hmm
that's giving you some very crucial information. And their absence from previous censuses is the confirmation that they were like.
One of the reasons I'm showing this is I have talked about Sandy Darity, Dr. Darity, William Darity, before, and I hear not so much lately, but every now and again, folks will get to talking about reparations, and I have asked, well, have you ever heard of Sandy Darity? No, never heard of him. Once again, people talking shit about stuff they have no clue about. He's not the only one who's written books on the topic, but he's the one that, is top of mind. Once again, there's all kinds of stuff to back up some of these arguments on the old YN channels. No one reads books these days. And yes, I've read the book. I own it.
To have been enslaved in the United States.
Dr. Darity, as an aside, I went through some records on Ancestry.com from the 1870 census one Sunday afternoon, and I found some of my relatives that were on there. And I wondered what your thinking about this was, because some of the relatives that I did find, their careers, jobs were listed on there as well. And oftentimes I would see, for women, oftentimes it was maid or, homemaker, servant, something to that effect. And then oftentimes for males, it was farmer, which made me think that, well, these people who are my relatives have never left the plantation that they were on in the first place when they were enslaved, possibly got back there through sharecropping, or, they just didn't have any other place to go.
Yeah.
Could that particular, if again, looking at eligibility criteria, also looking at the possible jobs that the ones that are listed on the 1870s could be an indicator as well that they were possibly enslaved previous to that?
It could. It could. You know, particularly if you're looking at Southern censuses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, we have to be careful because I think about 10% of the Black population in the United States were free
Mm.
before the Civil War,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there are certain states where their presence was higher than in others. So one of the
Mm.
states is Maryland.
Mm.
Another is Louisiana.
Okay.
But overall, it was about 10% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there could be some way to systematically examine what types of occupations were held by people who had been previously enslaved,
Mm-hmm.
and that might give you some sort of signal.
Mm.
But I think it's more precise, oddly enough, if you can find them in 1870 and they were more than 10 years of age, but you can't find them in 1860. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because they just did not record
Mm-hmm.
enslaved people in the U.S. Census by first and last name.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it
And in
mostly?
addition, there are
Oh, yeah.
slave censuses
Mm-hmm.
where if you did know which plantation
Mm.
your ancestors were enslaved on, there are several slave censuses. They're not comprehensive,
Right.
but that would allow you to identify.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tamika.
Hi, Stanley. How are
How you
you?
doing?
I'm a,
I'm third of Midland.
are you feeling better?
I am feeling better. I just wonder for how long. But we'll just go with it till I don't.
Oh, well, I hope you feel good. Make some tea. Do you have mint
Well,
tea?
I was thinking today,
Mm-hmm.
it's been years since I've had bronchitis.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it feels like.
Oh,
And
no.
I used to get it. Oh, excuse me. Hold on one second. Let me take a sip of water. I used to get it when I was young and working. Sometimes
Mhm.
if I overworked or just kind of pushed myself to a limit, eventually I get sick. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I haven't had bronchitis in 15 years. And I think that's what it is, but I'm curious to know because I haven't really been overworking. But anyway, I'm better than I was 2 days ago. So there is progress.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. When you had bronchitis, were you around smoke?
No, it was pure overwork.
Oh.
Years ago, I had pneumonia once when I was in the Navy. Again, from overwork. It was wintertime. I was down in the engineering spaces a lot. And it was just sheer overwork. When you're young, you think you can do everything. And it was so bad, I actually went to sick call and they diagnosed it walking pneumonia. The only problem is I was in charge of the engineering plan. It was over the Christmas holidays, and I couldn't take time off. Now the good thing on a ship, I can sleep on the ship. I got a stateroom, so that's what I did. I basically spent 2 weeks on the ship in port. I had a perfectly good condo, but I had to be there. And rest is the only thing that really cures it, to be honest.
Mm.
But it'll be all right. I mean, I know how to handle it. Just won't overdo it.
Yeah, definitely don't overdo it.
So how have you been?
I've been okay, just kind of bored. I was on
Oh,
your
really?
show last night and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I still heard your show. I was about to go
Oh yeah,
off.
we went way past. But I started late, but it still wound up being almost 10 hours. I hadn't done the show that long in a while.
But when I truly woke up to come bother the show, you weren't on the show no more. It was playing other ones. It was almost daylight. I was like, what is going on here, Stanley?
Well, no, I was up. I ended the show. Me, Leonard, and Stan Austrie.
I knew I heard you say Leonard's name. Now I know I wasn't crazy.
Yeah, he hadn't been up here in months. And but, we started, you know how old veterans will get around and start telling, sea stories.
That
So
sounds
it was a good show.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was so shocked.
What,
But I
that
didn't
Leonard
wake
came
up.
up?
I just kept sleeping there. No, I was asleep and I heard it at 3. And then when I woke up the last time and I still heard it, I was coming to say something and you weren't there. It was a recording.
Yeah, it's I had no intention of being up that long. That's kind of part, it kind of, I mean, I had a good time, but it kind of took a toll on me. So I wound up, because I've been having trouble sleeping, with the coughing and stuff. But I'm fine. I had a good time. I would definitely do it again.
Have you been to the doctor, Stanley?
No, I do have one coming up in November, and I don't know. I don't like doing it unless I have to, but I think I might have to.
Yeah, I think you need to go before November.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's if I'm not feeling better by Monday. My son has a test he's got to go into campus to take. So if I'm not better by then this week I'll have to go.
Please go, Stanley.
Yeah, I'll be all right. It's not that bad.
I know, but I don't like hearing you sick. I love your calm voice. It always calms me.
Well, that is good to hear.
Yeah. Even when you're mad, I still like your voice.
Aw.
So sweet.
So, any thoughts on the 2 videos I've shown?
No, I haven't been here long enough. I just came in, start talking, and then got on the panel.
Oh, that's all right.
But I'll be quiet so you can say it.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that. As a matter of fact, I kind of want comments. Someone asked if it was an open panel. Tina, I guess. Well, yeah, it's an open panel about the stuff I'm showing. I'm not going to, don't come up here and start talking about what's happening, on Izzy bands or something. But you're welcome to comment on the videos.
Hi, Mike.
How are you individuals doing today?
Individuals. I'm good.
And you didn't give me the credit I deserved, man. I was on that channel last night too.
I didn't hear you.
I don't think you were on at the very end, though, were you?
Go back and look. I was the one that made it last so goddamn long.
Right, but my question was, you weren't on at the very end, were you?
See, that sound weird.
Okay, I don't understand how the question could be weird.
I wasn't on at the very end.
The show ended when I hit the end button.
Besides the point,
hold on. When I hit the stop streaming button, it was me, Leonard, and Stan.
Yeah, stupid ass Leonard and Stan. He all right. Stan, all right. I don't agree. But shout out to Donald Trump, and I hope I'm glad you fellas are doing okay. The fellas and the lady, Miss Lady, you doing okay?
Yeah, and obviously
I
you're
just
doing
don't like
okay
the
too.
topic of your show title. I don't like the show title of this show. Black.
Why is that?
Well, it has a lot to do with Stanley. You're trying to start something, and you know what you be doing when you make these show titles. You're trying to fuck, and I hate to tell you this, man, but you just like the ambulance chaser, Ben Crump, Al Sharpton.
Oh, really?
People all
Am
riled
I
up.
making that kind of profit?
Well, you might be. You never know. You might be.
Well, let me assure you, I am not.
And why would you? Why? Well, you still never told the people why did you title your show like that?
Because I couldn't think of something more specific.
So you had to bring the race into
it. I didn't bring race into it. The United States of America, from about 1789 specifically, but before that as well. I didn't invent race. I didn't bring it into the country.
Nobody. God
invented. Okay, I need you
God
to
invented
listen to what I'm saying without interrupting.
Well, motherfucker, you interrupted me.
Gonna have to put you in the back if you keep interrupting.
You know I don't care.
Okay. Enough. I didn't invent race in America. I'm not the one who keeps interjecting it. Stop trying to act like it is a black person's fault. Race is a white problem.
No, it's a you problem. Race is a you problem.
No, I disagree.
Race is a you problem. The individual.
Okay, is this a white man's country?
No, it's not. It's every American citizen's country.
Okay, well then
we all bleed the same.
You have been whitewashed.
This is what I was telling you last night.
You have been whitewashed.
This is what I was telling you last night on your show.
Like a fucking white hood. You have been bleached.
You know, and it's sad. You know, Stanley. 61.
No, it's sad. It's sad.
You're indoctrinated.
You have a problem. It's sad that you have a problem with my show title.
Shout out to
it doesn't matter one way or the other.
Shout out to Donald Trump. We ain't gonna never agree on nothing.
I had a bunch of shows that were on a range of topics, and nothing specific. The unifying theme is these are kind of like general topics on race in America or within the Black community. I have like probably 100 videos that kind of looking for a theme or something like that. Saturday shows tend to be more. Saturday shows tend to be more Black American oriented. So Black stuff covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, shit. Fuck that shit. People choose to be racist. You know, people choose.
They do. I agree.
You racist.
They choose to. Well, I've said this before. American culture.
You got to own it.
I don't know, motherfucker, why you think this is other people's channels. You know I don't have this kind of patience.
Why you always bring up other people?
I don't know. I don't know why you have to act like this, Mike.
You always try to interject.
This is not Latino. This is not John Galt.
You're not talking to
the world, bitch. Don't be the world. Because I will fucking put you in the back.
Don't bring the
race. I will say what I'm going to say. You can either listen on panel or off panel.
If you don't want to, I was quiet long enough, and you.
So, as I was trying to say, shit, I don't even remember what I was trying to say now. I guess I'll recall it. But the bottom line is that, I was going to say American culture is inherently racist. You have to work to not be racist. If you just go along with your schooling and you know how the social media and all that stuff, hell yeah, you're going to be racist. The actual people trying to work to not be racist are the ones, like me. Hey, Mariah.
Stanley, my
Oh,
my
oh,
boo,
I'm sorry. Hey, Imperius.
my little Mikey Poo 123 is here. I wanted to just come
Hey,
up real.
hey, Stanley. Hey, I'm out. TMKC, y'all take care. I'm out.
I love you, Mikey Poo.
Well, all of a sudden, he lost his.
Oh yeah, he gets all upset
number.
with me because I just want to snuggle him and give him some love. I think he has he has a rough exterior, but he's a big teddy bear underneath everything.
He has a rough exterior.
Yeah, he's just a
Yeah,
teddy bear.
that motherfucker is all cocoa butter.
It's all cocoa butter, boo boo, and cocoa butter, right?
That pretty much.
All right, Stan. I just wanted to come up and just say hi. I hadn't seen you in a couple
Yeah.
days.
By the way, while you're here,
Yes, sir.
I will get around to see him, but he's
melting down,
got like.
Stanley. He's melting
I'm
down in
sorry.
his personal life. He has
Oh
dude,
yeah.
everybody. Knightish was going after him earlier today. Latino for Trump was going after him. His ex-girl is going after. Like everyone's going. Like it's all crumbling around him, and it's all
Well,
a result of his own ignorance,
Look, I told him there would be consequences.
Well, yeah, Mariah went around to all these people and told them, like, dude, there's all like dude, the thing is she's the most evil one to mess with because she's like all loved by everyone, is like a mod on like 100 channels. So she's gonna have like every one of those channels talking shit about him and stuff. So, it's his own fault to bring her kids into it. You know what I mean? Like only I can bring them in because they're the ones that torture me, so I can torture them.
Yeah, well, this is what happens. I told him you're listening to Ponder. Excuse me. You're listening to Ponder, and you're listening to what's his name? Someone else is giving him bad advice.
John Galt. It's Galt through Ponder, dude. I'm telling you, it's Galt through Ponder. Like Ponder just relays what Galt's trying to do all the time. Like that's all she does is go to places to try to relay his messages and get him on places. That's all it is. So anyway, oh yeah, dude. Like she's his little like what was the Silver Surfer to Galactus? What was that? The Herald? Yeah, he's like the Herald of John Galt. Or she's like the Herald of John Galt. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of scary, actually.
Well, yeah, because she's all like, dude. There's been, trust me, people have said like they're kind of doing and I believe you. Well, dude, did you hear about her whole tape with Skywalker, the jerk off tape, or no? Apparently, there's a jerk off tape of her jerking off Skywalker in a bonnet and a towel. He's like in a towel and a bonnet jerking him off. So
yeah, I've heard her complaining about AI.
No, it's not AI. This is real.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Skywalker brought it up on Bob's and shit like that. So.
Well, she likes those. She's kind of a what you call them, an archetype. These accomplished black women who like their men thuggish.
It's not just black women; it's white women too. Look at what's happening in Spain.
Yeah,
shit.
but
you know what I mean? So I mean, dude, like, no, it's something with women. It's called hybristophilia. You can get it. You can dig into You can dig deep into that for a while. I mean, look at the whole. What was that guy's name? Scott Peterson and all. Remember all that shit? Like, he had like 300 marriage proposals by women after he killed his wife and baby and her. You know what I mean? Like, women are wild about shit like that, dude. I'm telling you, man. Hybristophilia.
Yeah, but this is a little different because once you get that thug, then they try and manipulate and control him.
Well, I think a lot of it is his ego, that they think their like vagina is so good that it can tame like the criminal, like that she's so good to him, and her, she's so hot and beautiful that she can tame the wild beast. It's the same kind of thing that like in Beauty and the Beast and shit. You know what I mean? Like women think they can tame the savage animal of the man. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, in those kind of men, you ain't taming shit. You know what I mean? Like it's not happening.
There's something weird about her. it's like everywhere she goes, it's like she's like she's just traveling bad news.
She's
It's like
just a
everywhere she
you ever what was that song by Clearance Clearwater?
Bad Moon Rising.
Bad Moon Rising. You know, that's like she is. You know, I see bad moon
That's funny.
rising. I see
Oh wow.
bad time today. You know what I mean? That's what I feel. You know? So, anyways, I gotta grab some food, Stanley. But it was good
All
talking. Yeah, review that thing.
Take it easy.
There's so much. And talk to Mariah and dude. They have all the dude. Mariah's been.
Oh, I noticed. I
Yeah,
noticed
she's
the
been
stuff they were
after him.
dropping.
Like she's not dealing with him anymore. She was not. See, the thing is like he cried on Mariah's shoulder and about through all kinds of stuff and talks to her about all kinds and feel like, and then he turns around and like stabs her kids like in public and stuff. You know what I
Oh
mean? It's
no, the way Ponder was talking
yeah.
about Mariah's kids,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
it is disgusting. And
Yeah.
then she doesn't have kids.
Well,
That's
yeah, exactly.
disgusting.
Well, and that's the big reason she attacks it because she wants kids but can't have them, and so she's like trying to make another woman feel self-conscious about having them. You know what I
Oh
mean?
wow, yeah,
It's sick.
it's really just disgusting.
It's sick. Yeah. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take it easy. So, folks, the link is dropping every now and again, and I just thought about this. I need to put my other streaming links into a script to drop. As it turns out, I do stream to Twitch during the week and Kick. I just never talk about it. So I probably need to start developing some of that stuff. So we go. So we will start this again. And again, this is stuff, if you're going to talk about Black stuff, reparations in particular, you should know some of the ins and outs of this so you don't sound dumb on panels. I've heard some people talk about reparations one way or the other and just not know much.
I don't
An
know
enslaved
much.
ancestor.
Well, what do you want to know?
Why? What do you think about people receiving them?
I don't
I
think
think
anyone really is. There's some people in California. There's some specific locales. Trying to think, there was a city that did some reparations for redlining, and I can't remember the details now. But one of the things that is like the first thing people will say is, I never owned slaves, or my great grandparents never owned slaves. That's not the point. It's almost like a legal case. America allowed it. It's the government. People die. They have relatively short lifespans compared to institutions like the Congress, like the president. All these legal institutions that existed on day one, 1776, definitely after 1789. Let's blame the people who made the laws. Your granddaddy or your granddaddy probably wasn't a congressman making these laws, but Congress made the laws. Supreme Court upheld them. This is a case, the case for reparations is against the United States government, not individuals. So that's really the answer to that question. Who cares whether your great grandpappy owned slaves or not? We don't care.
And then the other possibility is to work with the Freedmen's records.
Okay.
Because virtually all the non-white recipients of Freedmen's Bureau services, and there were some white recipients because there was a refugee population that was included, but virtually all the non-white recipients would have been people who had been previously enslaved.
Gotcha. Now, I'm curious to know more about the slavery census. was the purpose of mostly having that was because of the 3/5 clause for representation, or was it for something else? Do you know?
I think it also was for the purposes of recording property.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Kind of like your deed, or
Right.
just like to say, or like a list of assets.
That's
That,
right. That's right. I mean, that's why we refer to it as chattel slavery,
yeah.
because
It,
our ancestors were treated like cattle.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild to me when I just think about like how the humans were thought of in a way like you would think of like your house or your car.
Yeah.
It I mean like, and even though like
Well,
I
of course, you might sleep in your house and in your
yeah,
car, but you wouldn't sleep with your house or your car.
no.
And and to the extent that we were perceived as being subhuman,
Yeah.
what the hell was going on when folks were forcing themselves on Black women?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like all of that, right? Like you literally said that this person was not a person.
Right.
Let me also make a point, because of Aaron C is very consistent with stuff like this. Let me see, can I find it? Oh, here it is. Aaron C says, you live great lives due to being in proximity to whites. Well, that's a good point. So many good points. Number one, so do you, of Aaron C. See, these mudsill level white people like you and Be Brave, y'all are basically clutching the skirt, the apron strings of the great whites. Okay, what have you built of Aaron C? Okay, you telling everybody you have Mayflower ancestry, that don't mean squat. That's not going to buy you a cup of coffee. It's not, it only impresses mudsills like you and Be Brave. You ain't invented shit. Dude, as much as I love the Navy, your blue-blooded ancestors would not be impressed. You are not a maker. You're not, if we want to look at just the white Americans, you're a taker, just like the black folk. You ain't no better than the black folk because you ain't making shit. Neither is Be Brave. Y'all want to claim that we white people have made it easy. Motherfucker, you haven't done squat. You punch a clock just like your black co-workers. You ain't making anything other than, a fool of yourself. So there's that. Keep thinking you're one of the whites making it great for black people. We all know the truth, son. So what's up, Mike?
Hey, what's up, Stanley? Will you allow me to be quick and to the topic here? My opinion, sure. I might get a lot of pushback, but I don't give a shit.
Well, hurry up.
People gonna call me all these names, but I'm just telling you the truth. But there is no racism. It never existed. And I said this in the chat. People had to be, certain individuals that had to be forced to be a part of society, and then when these individuals was able to get free and they had an opportunity, what did they do with it? Nothing. They didn't do nothing. Hey, I'm talking.
I don't give a fuck. Shit, you don't mean speak to me, right?
I'm talking. I didn't interrupt you, did I?
So I don't care.
That's not nice. That's not nice.
I don't gotta be.
Well, you don't. But yeah, that's just
We're gonna do you on the
before
panel.
I was rudely interrupted. That's
Okay, are
just
you done? Are you done with your point?
well, not really. I just don't want to be interrupted.
Okay, well, let me
But it's
take
okay. You could move on and say what you got.
Let me take a quick break right here. Gas money for the Saturday short bus provided by Speak Radio, Broke Genius, Mike 123, and Dirty Dude. Thank y'all for the gas money. And then let me go ahead and thank the executive producers. I need to do this before I forget.
Yeah, I came back because
Brooklyn
of the
Watson,
Imperious.
VC,
Queer.
Brooklyn Watson, VCKJ3, Dirty Dude, Lupin Reiging, and again, Speak Radio. So thank you all for the support.
Shit, I supported you too. Why you didn't miss I supported too.
I did.
You scared of Mike 123?
Okay, Mike, did you not just hear me thank you for the for supporting
You said your name, dumbass.
Okay, dude, this is just fucking ridiculous. I just thanked you for supporting the Saturday show, son. Maybe if you'd stop flapping your fucking chapped lips, you could hear what I'm saying.
Well,
What's
hey,
up,
Stanley, that was rude for your panelists to interrupt me.
Well, ain't nobody trying to give a fuck about you or your $5, bitch.
Hey, it's okay, TMKC. It's okay. It's okay, TMKC. It's okay. Your life would be a lot better if you just stop what you're doing.
All right. So what's up, 12th man?
Not much, man. Just listening to this dumbass. Well, I had a prescription for you. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. You could take a couple of whiskeys on the rocks, sip those real slow, and then drink a beer. You might feel a lot better.
Yeah, I just
that was horrible advice. Man,
I don't feel bad. I just don't, feel 100%.
Yeah, I don't want to be associated with you.
I'm good to go for now. When it.
I have days I don't feel good too. I have days I don't feel good too, Stanley, and I think that's just the way it is when you get older.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it took me a minute. Yeah, I'll be fine.
How old are you, 12th man?
I'll be 55 next month.
Oh damn! I thought you was older. Okay.
Well, I feel older. I was pretty rough on my body growing up, and life had a couple of unfortunate accidents. So it is what it is, Some people get older at a younger age.
Yeah, I feel like the older I get, the younger I look.
You mean compared to other people your age?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Younger, the older you get.
Yeah, because like a lot of people, like a lot of women,
that's a blessing.
That are my age.
I've seen some women in their mid-60s. They're still gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I was going to address this comment. Book of RLM says, imagine still getting paid at 47. I assume she means of Aaron C. If not, I'll just pick on him anyway. I don't think there's a problem with being a taker, a wage earner, a work-a-day guy. Nothing wrong with that. I think the biggest problem with people like of Aaron C. is they don't understand that you can talk about white people doing great things. You're not one of them. You're most of the founding fathers, there were 56 of them that signed the Constitution or something like that. Maybe it's the Declaration of Independence, but around that number. Those were the white people who made the Constitution, formed the government. The rest of the whites, they were just riding along. So stop thinking that just because your skin color is close to one of the founders, that you're one of the founders. So, and it's this weird racist self delusion that people like of Aaron C. and Be Brave and others, they literally, it just tells me they're dumb, to be honest. They have no concept of self. You were not one of the founders. You are a descendant of the Mayflower, if that is indeed true, but you're not one of them.
I bet he can't prove it.
Oh, who gives a fuck? You know, that's for him and his 4chan buddies. No one else outside of that cares.
You're dumb, Mike.
Where did
Hey,
Mike
mine
go?
go back to around the revolution.
But he's calling somebody dumb.
I think mine go back to around the revolution, but
Yeah,
I know they don't.
I
They
don't
don't
really,
go back to
I
the
don't really care.
Mayflower.
I'm a what are you doing now sort of guy. Those
Yeah,
ancestors are dead.
that's
They've
what
done their
matters.
jobs.
You're
They've
right.
done their jobs, oftentimes well. What I see from Aaron C. or 12th Man, nothing spectacular that you know I'd be wanting to talk about a lot.
Yet and still, you felt, or
You have the
you
most intimate action
yes,
possible.
yes,
You
yes.
force it on them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it kind of goes back, especially like, since I'm a social worker and I've worked with people who have survived, sexual assault. It's really about this whole dynamic of power and control, and that person feels that they can do whatever they want because they own you in some cases, like
Yeah.
especially like when you're talking about interpersonal violence. But that's not this video. That's another conversation. But really just like getting into like the psyche of a person who can actually own another person and think that that's okay. That's wild.
Yeah. Well, now, the reaction I frequently get when the point you just made is advanced is that, well, everybody thought that way.
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, the folks who were enslaved themselves didn't think that way.
Hello.
Okay. And the history of resistance to slavery in the United States is something that is a long suppressed story. But secondly, there actually were white folks at the time who thought slavery was a bad idea. In fact, the largest number of abolition societies prior to the 1830s were in the South. Now, some of the folks in those abolition societies wanted to send the Black folks back to the continent.
Yeah.
But comprehensively, those societies were against slavery. And the folks who were involved in those societies either were killed or they were driven out of the South altogether. So that by the time you get to the mid 1830s, there are hardly any abolition societies in the South.
Wow.
But originally there was a significant number of them.
I never read a lot about the abolition societies that were in the South. What would you say like would be their rationale to kind of make that leap to say slavery is wrong and we shouldn't have it?
Well, I think there were some who just said that this notion of one human being owning another is wrong.
Yeah.
And so those are folks who accepted the humanity of the slaves. There are others who were convinced that the system of slavery was in some ways harmful to the performance of the Southern economy or to Southern whites ultimately. And so they are taking kind of a more cynical.
I'm sorry. I hate stopping videos every 2 minutes because I like enough to play to get context. But I want to thank RLM for donating to the Saturday show. RLM, you do know you can hit the link. feel welcome to do it if you want. You and I talked over on your channel. Look, it was kind of what I told Ryan to do, self-deport. Your crew is, I'm just gonna keep butting heads with them, and it's not productive for your operation. But as far as I'm concerned, you and I are good. So don't be shy about hitting the link over here. And thank you for the support, ma'am.
Approach to abolition, that this is something that would be better for the South.
Basically saying slavery as a labor force will not be sustainable in the future.
Right. This is the kind of argument. I think that's actually not true. I think had we not had the Civil War in the United States, it's possible that we might still have slavery practice to this day.
I
don't
agree
doubt
with that.
especially when we have a person that's said to.
Well, the bottom line is it became more than economic. It became social, political, cultural, besides economic. It was just a way of life. And so I agree with Dr. Darity.
Abby Phillips that, immigrants are taking Black jobs, and then she asked, what is a Black job? And he said, the jobs that Black people have. I'm like, oh wow, but I know what you mean though when you say that. Like, those jobs that are considered laborious, hard, those, picking the fruits, picking the vegetables, picking whatever type of commodity that you want to go ahead and take it to the market, like that. I wouldn't doubt
jobs that are typed as Black jobs, just like we have gender type jobs. One of the examples is nursing, right? The assumption is that nurses are typically going to be women. And interestingly enough, I believe male nurses do get paid more than women nurses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
even
compensation for working in a job that is not typed for your gender, I don't know.
Exactly. That's okay, that's a whole nother video. But I want to talk to you about now the reasoning behind lineage-based reparations. I know that there has been back and forths, especially when you're talking about eligibility, if a reparations plan were to actually get ratified by Congress and the president signs it into law, that should it be something that's just like anybody who's considered Black, just because we have a very long history of racial animus against Black people in the United States, so maybe we should just consider that, or we should look at the people who were actually harmed. So let's can you talk more about why that distinction to be more towards lineage versus race is so important?
So I think the folks who want a reparations plan to be all encompassing across all Black people would make the argument that all Black people have been harmed in the United States.
Sure.
Okay. I think there is a difficulty with that formulation, though, and there are two problems with it. The first is the numbers of folks who migrated to the United States after slavery ended, who were Black, primarily come to the United States in the aftermath of the civil rights legislation of the 1960s. There were very few Black immigrants to the United States prior to that. And, I think people get a misleading impression because they frequently look at New York City. But New York City and perhaps Miami, Florida, because of its proximity to the Caribbean, were very, very different from the rest of the country. I think that the estimates that I've seen suggest that less than 1% of the Black population in the United States prior to the 1960s and 1970s were individuals who were not the descendants of persons who were enslaved here. Okay. So that's the first point. But related to that point is that population of immigrants came to the United States voluntarily, which is a sharp distinction from the conditions under which those of us with enslaved ancestors, the conditions under which those ancestors came to the United States. Okay, so that's very important. The second point of distinction concerns the promise that was made to the freedmen of 40 acres and a mule, a promise that was not fulfilled. So they never received restitution of any form for their years of bondage. And this had intergenerational effects because of the consequences of their inability to transmit the wealth that might be associated with that land allocation to subsequent generations. And of course, this is happening at the same time that the federal government is giving 1.5 million white families 160-acre land grants under the Homestead Act. And so, Kirsten and I have argued that that's the beginning of the racial wealth gap in the United States.
Yeah.
But that history of how wealth was denied Black Americans is not the same history of the formation or loss of wealth on the part of Blacks who have immigrated to the United States more recently. So that leads me to say that if we're thinking about a comprehensive program of reparations that's associated with the cumulative intergenerational effects of white supremacy, then we have to target the segment of the population whose ancestors were enslaved here. Now, just a point of caution, the lineage standard from Kirsten and my perspective is not sufficient. So we also argue that there needs to be an identity standard, a standard that says that an individual has to have self-identified as Black, Negro, African American, or Afro-American for at least 12 years before the onset of a reparations plan or before the adoption or establishment of a commission, a national commission, to address the reparations issue. And so we think that both conditions have to be met. I know that there's a significant number of people who insist that we should exclusively use the lineage standard because they are convinced that the inclusion of a race standard will not pass muster before the Supreme Court. I kind of argue two things here. First is you should not preempt yourself from designing the most suitable program simply because you think it won't withstand the Supreme Court. In fact, if we have a Congress that passes a pure reparations plan, that Congress probably will also be willing to pack the court if necessary. Okay. But secondly, the first component of a reparations plan must be a detailed acknowledgement of responsibility on the part of the culpable party.
And a few of these points that Dr. Darity brings up are not going to happen. You will get the of air and seas talking about, well, my grandparents, didn't own slaves. What about me? I don't have white privilege. In my heart of hearts, I think this is a rhetorical point. We should get reparations. I think it's easily demonstrated that reparations would be in order. The problem is we got too many mudsills. We got too many Be Braves. We got too many Palomino Ricky Z's. They would never be able to fucking admit that reparations are necessary. And that is an
Well,
American.
I thought he made a couple of good points, Stanley.
He makes
but
good points. I don't have a problem with his points. What I am saying is that America would never be able to comply.
But if it were, he was saying that you have to prove that your ancestry is from slavery, that you can't be one of these tethers and came over here and had
Okay, maybe
kids and
you
just
don't
do
quite
it by
get.
race.
Maybe you don't quite get my stance on this. I don't care about the details. I'm not gonna get too knee deep into the details because the plan will never be approved or accepted. White people in America
You're right.
don't think they're responsible for slavery, and they do have an argument, but most of them are so brainwashed by patriotic education, they don't understand that the reparations argument is against the U.S. government, not white people per se.
Mhm.
The brainwashing, the whitewashing that's out there is telling people like of RNC and Palomino and all these folks that this is an assault on white people. We didn't own slaves. You're not going to be able to defeat that kind of mudsill IQ level of reasoning. That's my point.
And if Congress were to say the United States government bears responsibility for all of these atrocities that were executed against Black American descendants of U.S. slavery, at least under the present construction of strict scrutiny, it does meet that standard.
Yeah, I've heard that argument concerning if you mention race in some way, especially as you're talking about like as far as like identity is concerned, then you're going to get dinged by the 14th Amendment in some shape, way, or form.
Well, you're going to get dinged by the current court's interpretation of
yeah, I agree. I'm talking about you, Judge Roberts. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Race only counts when you're excluding Black people.
Yeah, you noticed that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The reasoning that you have this 2-portion criteria, not only lineage, but also identifiers as race, was that kind of to eliminate the $5 Indian problem?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And actually, there are going to be some white people who actually have had ancestors.
Hey, Stanley.
Yes, sir.
Can you pause it? I was wondering, do you have an albuterol inhaler?
No, and I don't need to go there unless the doctor prescribes it.
Well, ask him about it and see if it'll help.
I know what it is. My son, when he was really small, sometimes would have allergy issues.
You've had a small cough for a long time. You said it's because of some meds you take or something.
No, it's a blood pressure medication, but this is beyond that. It feels like bronchitis. So let me.
Albuterol is for like if you have sudden cough problems and stuff like that. It can help calm it.
Right. It basically loosens up, the bronchial passageways and stuff like that.
Right.
So
you already know about it.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I was going to point out a comment that Palomino said. Once again, Palomino echoing what I'm talking about. He says, I owned 0 slaves, nor did anyone in my U.S. bloodline. I should pay 0. Nobody's fucking asking people to write a check. Again, it's the U.S. government. It's we the people, not just we the Palomino.
And reparations, I agree with you, Stanley. It's never going to happen. So why talk about it, really?
Well, people didn't think slaves would be freed either.
So you actually believe reparations could happen at the federal level?
Who does?
Well, I'm asking you, do you think it will
I
actually happen
literally
at the
just
federal
said
level?
I literally just said I don't think they will, because white people, the crowns of their skulls would blow up.
And then there's people like Tim Scott would probably vote against it.
I don't give a fuck about Tim Scott.
I knew you was gonna say that.
Like I said, I don't think it'll happen, but there are a lot of things that people didn't think would happen eventually did.
Right.
So if that's what Dr. Darity wants to do, who am I?
Who were enslaved in the United States. So they won't be, fabricating their eligibility under the lineage standard. But by having an identity standard also, we can prevent persons who are living as white from being eligible for reparations.
Yeah, I feel you. Short story. I remember having this very conversation with a white man concerning reparations, and he was mentioning to me, he kept on bringing back Native Americans. And he said, well, the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because they still haven't gotten what they were supposed to get from the federal government and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I don't doubt that, but neither have
That's
we.
not the case.
But that's not what we're right. But we're not talking
we're
about
certainly
that.
not against Native
Right.
Americans.
No,
They got their
listen,
claim,
I want everybody to get their stuff. Like
That's
I
right.
don't really
That's
care. I don't
So
care. Really care.
when the Japanese Americans got reparations payments, no one said, well, what about Black Americans or what about Native Americans? It's only when the question of reparations is focused on Black American descendants of U.S. slavery that people say, well, there's these other groups that are standing in line that ought to receive it.
Yeah.
We've been at the back of the line for so long.
They already receive it.
I'm sorry, what?
I think natives already receive it. I mean, they get checks and their own land and everything else. They already got reparations.
I don't think that people don't seem to understand. There's no way you'll ever fix what happened to Native Americans.
Right. And we're not going back to living in teepees and igloos. So there's that.
Who is we?
No way to fix it. Nobody. Nobody's going back to living like that. Like they were.
I was gonna thank you for dropping that Twitch link. Folks, people probably didn't know this, but I've been streaming to Twitch and Kick for a few months now, during the week at least. And since the CM incident, I need to make sure that people get subscribed to them. So at some point, I'm going to add it to the Nightbot scripts and ask people to start subscribing. And I also have a backup YouTube channel. But next week I'll get
Oh,
that all
I
together.
don't
and
know
talk
about
it
that
more.
one, Stanley.
I've never streamed from it.
Is it
But might
Stanley
want
versus the World too? Is it the same?
to. You know what? I don't even remember. I think it's just called Stanley Cross. But I'll have all that information next week.
Their point, but
that part right there, like, yeah, but the others, but what about all the whataboutisms, right? You know,
right,
and I'm just like, dude, do you understand that we have as a people, before that there was a United States, there was slavery. Slavery built the economic floor of the United States.
Yeah.
It was not industry. It was not the Gilded Age, even though I love that show on HBO.
Well, slavery was a pathway to industrialization, particularly with respect to the textile industry.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate you saying that. I think you should say it louder for the ones who are in the back, if you want to. Right. I was like, where do you think that they got the capital to actually enter into the industrial revolution, industrial revolution in the first place? In the first place, like you had to have it.
Okay, well, she's basically mangling the point. I talked about Empire of Cotton a few months ago. Well, hold on one sec. Due to my voice, I'm not going to get knee deep into it. She's right. At one point in time, before the Civil War, the cotton industry, cotton growing in the South, was like we were the number one cotton producer, supplying to textile mills in New England, but the majority of it wound up over in the Manchester area of England. They were the biggest in the world. And the Civil War kind of interrupted all that. So she's right. Slavery was an anchor or cornerstone of American capitalism for several different reasons. It wasn't just cotton. At one point in time, slaves, if you totaled it all up, slaves, you could mortgage slaves, you could do all kinds of things using slaves as financial instruments. They were property. It was basically a bigger asset than cotton was, if I recall.
To do it. Yeah. Anywho. So we're wanting to move over to when you were talking to the into the DeSable Museum when you came to Chicago. First off, I'm sorry I missed you.
Sorry I missed you.
Yeah. I know I really wanted to be there, but I was waiting on a plumber. But that's neither here nor there. But I did watch the playback.
What is it? Life is life.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Darity, life was life. And I was like, look, I want to hear Dr. Darity and Kirsten Molson talk about reparations in my hometown, but I got this leak that need to get fixed. But I wanted you to talk a bit more about your experience being with the Illinois African Descendants of Slavery Commission. What stood out to you the most?
I think the most significant thing is the fact that the commission is not using its own title as a basis for thinking about who should be eligible for reparations.
Yeah.
I think the commission has been pretty explicit in saying that they think that the community of eligibility should consist of Black American descendants of U.S. slavery, even though the title of the commission has the phrase African descent, which has all kinds of confusions and complications associated with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, when we start talking about African Americans or African descent, so what's the chronological point at which somebody becomes a person of African descent? And it can work in two different directions. I mean, you could argue that everybody globally is of African descent.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the Lucy hypothesis.
Yep.
On the other hand, you've got folks whose families might have migrated to Africa more recently, like white South Africans who, when they migrate to the United States, frequently say, well, I'm African American.
Yeah, that
and
is
so
true.
I think that the phrase African American has little utility in the context of thinking about eligibility or African descent for that matter. And so that's why I think that you have to have the precision of talking about lineage and identity that's self-reported.
I gotcha. Yeah, I was I when I was watching it, and I always, because I remember because I met Marvin Slaughter, the person, that's the head of the commission, and I always
Marvin did a paper with Carson and I.
Yeah, exactly. And I never asked, like, what was the rationale for that name? Like, who came up with that name? Even though, like, I know, because like he has been very clear, and I read the bill. This is what this is,
And I'm really impressed with the strength of that conviction that they've displayed.
I am too, and I think
the other thing is, I think their commission, I'm not sure because they obviously have not prepared their report, but I have the sense that they may say much more about the significance of reparations being conducted at the federal level than the other state or local commissions.
Is that something that you think was not stressed enough? Like when, like, thinking of like maybe California or maybe like some of the other like state and
well, in the California case, I know that Kirsten and I were pro bono consultants.
Yeah.
Everything we recommended was not done.
Okay. I gotcha. I hear you. Yeah.
But that was a very complicated situation because there was so much of a fight over eligibility, which takes place in every case, which is another reason. Let's do it at the federal level and then have one big fight about this,
Yeah.
instead of having to fight about it in every single city across the United States.
Yeah. And then I wanted to bring up something that you talked about, and I've heard you talk about this before, about the combined budgets of all states and municipalities in the United States is only roughly around what $5 trillion, I think. Only, yeah. but then and when you were talking about that, then Breitbart decided to quote you.
Right.
And say, a presenter at the Illinois Reparations Commission, ADRC, gives away the game. It's impossible, actually, for all states and localities to meet the task of closing the racial wealth gap. Their combined budgets across the country are not sufficient to close a gap that is in the trillions of dollars. But they just stopped right there.
Yeah, that's right. And they don't say, well, that means it's a federal responsibility.
Right.
Now, the right-wing folks love to try to suggest that this is an absurd project because of the amount of money that.
Well, let me just kind of emphasize that's a white people problem. I don't give a fuck if it's found. Who cares about the money? Y'all figure it out. When like in a civil suit situation, they don't care that someone doesn't have $50 million, the judgment is $50 million. It's up to the person who's liable to figure out how to pay it, if they can pay it.
Would be required.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And actually, the amount associated with the racial wealth gap is less than some other ways of estimating the bill.
Yeah. What did one of your colleagues see? I forgot. I think. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name.
So is it Thomas Kramer?
Yes, Thomas Kramer, who came up with what the quadrillion, like 6.9 quadrillion
Yeah.
dollars or something to
Now,
that effect.
the problem with that, of course, is that that's an estimate of what it cost the folks who were enslaved
Mm-hmm.
to be subjected to the atrocity.
Right.
So that is what is due or would have been due to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's appropriate for those of us who are living
Mm-hmm.
to receive what was due to our ancestors who directly experienced slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a consequence, Kirsten and I have been trying to come up with some kind of indicator
Mm-hmm.
of the cumulative effects of the entire trajectory of white supremacy on living Black Americans. And so we settled on the racial wealth gap as
Mm-hmm.
something that captured those cumulative effects. But there's also another approach that we think is pretty good, which is to use the life expectancy gap and assign dollar values to the years of life that Black people can anticipate not living as a consequence of the way in which American society functions. So there's about a 6-year differential between life expectancy for Blacks and whites in the United States. And if you use that, you're going to come up with an estimate of what is due that's about twice the amount of what would be required to close the racial wealth gap. So, as I said, the racial wealth gap measure is not the largest one you can come up with.
Yeah, that's the baseline. And
that's right.
And I mean, and since like I work in healthcare, I pay attention to a lot of those numbers, especially when you're looking at life expectancy, healthcare outcomes. Matter of fact, I had a person reach out to me who quoted Representative, well, now not representative anymore, Jamal Bryant, who talked about the proclivity for African Americans, Black folk, to deal with certain chronic conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure and even be affected by cancer. And matter of fact, I have
infant mortality, maternal mortality
rate.
All of those things are considerably higher.
Yes, considerably higher for Black Americans. I was.
This stuff just wears me the fuck out. Dealing with the Palomino Ricky Z's of the world. Palomino, you want to interject yourself into the middle of everything. If I say it's a white man's country, I think of the actual, like, successful white men. I don't think of you. You might be white, but you are a taker, not a maker. Okay, when I say it's a white man's problem or it's a white man's country, you're about the last white man that I think of. You're not a maker.
It's not white man's country when you go to Memphis, Stanley.
Who gives a fuck? Is Memphis the whole country?
It's last I checked,
New York. Last I checked, Memphis is in Tennessee. Tennessee's in the United States. Who gives a fuck about Memphis? I'm not talking about Memphis.
The back and forth between Robert Kennedy Jr. and Representative Lee when they were talking about Black maternal health on the in Congress in one of the oversight committees, and basically said, well, we're doing measurable things for all women, and then she said, but what about Black maternal health? They don't have the same. How do you address something like that when it doesn't have, when their outcomes are not equivalent to white women's outcomes?
Right.
You know, and especially because like the whole thing was that when people were submitting for research concerning certain things, they didn't want you to mention race at all, so you couldn't say Black.
Right.
So like, how do you address it if you can't say Black?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
well, they don't care.
No,
They
they
don't care.
don't. They don't.
They don't care.
Yeah, but it is infuriating. And
I mean, if you really think about it, the Trump administration is a reproduction of lost cause ideology.
yes, Neil.
They are the new Confederates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
they are. They're doing the Daughters of Confederacy's work as
that's
we
right.
speak.
That's right.
Yes, yes, they are.
Down to trying to control our knowledge of the historical record.
Yes. Yes. I did a video some months ago about the slaves memorial that was taken down from the presidential house in Philadelphia. At the order of I think the executive order that came out maybe that the second day of Trump's presidency about the Truth and Sanity Act. And basically saying that, okay, yeah, we're just going to scrub all these particular monuments to talk about slavery because, that's going to make Amy and Jenny feel bad.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, but it happened.
That's right.
But it happened. I believe that the city sued.
Truth and sanitization.
Yes, right. How about truth and whitewashing? How about that?
That's about right.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the current activism climate. Because as I was telling you earlier, like one of the reasons why I went from being a reparations skeptic to reparations advocate was because I learned the history and also learned about Black American positionality, and even, and I've even made this argument that we probably would have been okay if they would have just left alone after slavery. If you would have just gave us our ancestors what they were supposed to be given and left us alone without Jim Crow, without mass incarceration, without all these other isms that has happened in these institutions. But it's like one thing after another that has like compiled, that has caused in my opinion a crisis with us, not only just socially but economically. So how should we look at doing activism work, especially in this current climate, that would make sense, especially now that it seems like when you even try to mention wholeness for Black Americans, it becomes a conversation that's like dead on arrival.
Well, now you're asking me how you make or sustain a social movement, and I don't know the answer.
Why not?
But I will say this.
Yes.
If we are pushed into silence, then nothing will happen.
Yeah.
So even though it may be a difficult environment to continue to push these kinds of ideas, we have to do it.
What do you say to Because like there are folks out there without, utilizing all the different acronyms. I'm neither here nor there, that might take these ideas but seem to not really get on the right path as far as like how to advocate that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know, besides calling them out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, like, because like as a, I
Yeah,
was like, we were, yeah, go ahead.
I think you're talking about situations where there are people who are ostensibly advocates of reparations
Mm-hmm.
who actually take other kinds of positions that are damaging to the reparations effort.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
And
that
so
part.
in a sense, even though the ideas that they're expressing are not necessarily contradictory,
Mm-hmm.
their behavior is contradictory.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. The best you can do is say, this is not
Mm-hmm.
supporting
This our argument.
the true reparations effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think of like, for instance, I would just say like at the meeting that you spoke at, you and your wife spoke at, one of the commenters got up and started talking about possible illegal immigrants owning stores and restaurants in the South Shore area. And matter of fact, I don't live that far from South Shore.
Yeah.
And I know that I can definitely say that in this area that that he was discussing, it is mostly Black, but in actuality, South Chicago, especially Southeast Chicago, has been mixed between Black and Latinos for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so because I really wanted to ask him if I was there, like, how do you know they illegal? That's one. I mean, like, but I mean, I feel that, constantly looking at, oh, what this immigrant got and what this immigrant got and what this immigrant got, but you're not really I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my words out and they're not coming out the way that I like.
I don't know. I don't know if we were thinking the same way on this, but
Mhm.
I don't think it's necessary nor useful
Yeah.
to the reparations movement to link itself with an anti-immigration movement.
Yeah.
And there may be a host of sound reasons for wanting to be critical
Mm-hmm.
of existing immigration policy
Sure.
and its effects.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it necessarily has anything to do with the reparations movement.
Right. Right. I don't.
And in fact, I've said only half facetiously, if we were to receive comprehensive reparations, I would be fine with opening the border.
I know that's not.
I don't want to open the border when we're in a position of deep, deep disadvantage in this country.
Yeah.
But if we were given reparations, if our economic situation was corrected in full,
yeah,
then I wouldn't care who came and went.
I don't
across the border.
I don't either. I mean, like, yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think that, like, often when you start to hit your wagon on right wing, because that's what it is, right wing rhetoric, instead of actually looking at Black people's positionality and advocating to improve that. You get off the line.
Our position is what it is primarily because of a set of policies that the federal government pursued.
Yes.
that are not necessarily connected to immigration.
Yes, yes, you are absolutely right. I mean, you know, when you think about, and I know you talked about this in your book, you talked about the GI Bill.
Right.
You know,
and we've talked a little bit earlier about the Homestead Act.
Yep.
For white Americans, even though, you know, the legislation doesn't specify that, but de facto that was the case. And the failure to give the freedmen the land
Their-
that
the
they
land
were
grants.
promised,
Right.
Which actually was 1/4 of the size of the allotment that was actually given to white.
Yeah. I mean, so like
There's the GI Bill, there's redlining,
urban renewal.
there's the federal government sanctioning these 100 massacres that took place where Black property was taken and appropriated. You know,
yeah, it's so many.
That's the core story.
Yes. And I think that that's where we should stick. Like, if you're going to do reparations, advocacy and activism, where you should stick is the core story of why now and why it's appropriate and necessary to make us whole. I share.
You mentioned right-wing talking points.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say is rejecting the right doesn't necessarily mean you embrace the Democratic Party, which I don't think is truly left.
Yeah, no, God, no.
But I mean, that's the problem. The Democratic Party has failed Black America while getting a lot of political support from Black America.
Yes, they have.
But the answer is not to turn to the Confederates.
Exactly. Well, but remember, Dr. Darity, according to a celebrity, the Democratic Party was the people who created the KKK. And I was like, okay, so we ain't gonna talk about the Great Party Switch. We're not gonna talk about that.
No, we're not gonna talk about the fact that it's not the party of Lincoln anymore. It's the party of Strom Thurmond.
Okay, that part.
So, I guess we're not going to talk about that.
We ain't going to talk about that, huh? We ain't going to talk about that. This is why it's important. Read, sir. Anywho, so going forward, if reparations were actually implemented, and I know that you kind of talked about this in the book as well, what would success actually look like? Not just a moral one, but an economic success for Black Americans?
Well, you know, our metric is pretty straightforward. If you actually raised Black levels of assets sufficiently so that you eliminated the racial wealth gap, then that would be the point of success.
And to reiterate, the racial wealth gap, addressing that is the bottom. It's the bottom line. It's the baseline.
And if you were to use the life expectancy gap, since the amount due would be twice as large, you would effectively close the racial wealth gap simultaneously.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think we should do both. And for some of the younger generations that would be watching this, what role do you think that they should be playing right now in pushing this work forward?
Well, I think the first thing is they need to develop a clear sense of what reparations plan they are actually supporting or pushing forward.
What's up, Tina?
Hi. Honestly, Stanley, not gonna lie, okay, I'm a little tipsy. That's not the point, right? The point is, you were talking hella shit about me.
Okay, ma'am, I'm not in the mood. Talking shit
Okay,
about
okay,
you.
fine.
I'm seriously, what shit have I been talking about you? Let's make it quick.
I heard last night you on the panel with Leonard.
And
you're talking shit, no?
I was talking a lot of different shit. What specifically about you did
Never
I
mind.
talk about?
Never
I'm
mind,
sorry,
it's fine.
what?
Never mind, it's fine.
Okay, well, apparently you don't remember either.
No, I don't want to argue. That's the thing. You said you're not
Okay,
in the mood.
no,
I
ma'am,
am not in
ma'am,
the mood either.
ma'am.
Sir.
We don't argue on this panel.
Here.
If I don't remember it, whatever shit I said obviously wasn't important enough for me to
It was
remember.
important.
Obviously, it was
ASMR. I
important.
fall asleep to it because
Okay,
it's so comforting.
ma'am, we don't do that. If it was important enough for you to remember, please let me know what it is, because it wasn't important enough for me to remember. Let's get to the point. I'm not in the mood. Do you recall what it was? Because I
Never
don't.
mind. Honestly, Stan, never mind.
Okay, well, if it's never mind,
Exactly.
let's
Okay,
get
so
to
never
it.
mind then.
Okay, ma'am. How are you doing, by the way? Apparently, you're a little perturbed.
Oh,
She said
brother.
she was a little tipsy, Stanley.
I don't give a fuck. Get to
Stanley.
the point. Dude, I just said I'm not in the mood.
I'm not arguing with you.
Good. Let's get back to the video.
Okay, good.
Okay, and by the way, in a couple minutes, I'm going to have to answer the front door, such as it is.
Oh, you got an
Because
Uber
we've got
coming?
multiple advocates of reparations, but in many instances, what they are proposing or supporting runs into contradiction.
Can you give an example of that?
Well, I mean, you've got, organizations like Narcan and Cobra who are opposed to direct payments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, NARC's 10-point plan says that you should set up something that they're calling a National Reparations Trust Authority.
Oh my God.
That should manage the reparations funds.
Yeah.
And they don't say explicitly who would be in charge of the National Reparations Trust Authority.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe them, I don't know. And then they clearly are opposed to the use of the lineage standard for reparations.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of their documents suggest that reparations should be paid in such a way that it would reach directly to Black business owners on the African continent. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So
that is amazing.
I don't know how we can all be supporting reparations when we have very, very different concepts of what reparations.
Okay, Pookie and Ray Ray.
These are not differences that can be papered over.
I'm sorry, what?
Nothing.
Well, this is let's see about 4 more minutes,
or resolved by some healthy compromise, because they are antithetical views of what reparations should look like.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the first point. We've got to come to an agreement about what the reparations plan should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it will not be an agreement that arises out of a consensus.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, can you pause it for a second? Speak radio, shut the fuck up.
Okay, whoa. You told me to pause a video so you could address somebody in the chat?
100%, yeah.
Okay, that's not how this is going to work.
Okay, Papa, I'm saying.
We usually pause the video if you have comment about the video.
Yeah, I had a comment for Speak Radio.
You can type. You can type what you need to type.
I can't, Stanley, because my app doesn't work properly.
Ma'am,
sir,
this isn't
sir.
This is not ERT. This is not ERT or one of these other channels where, because you're cute and young.
And so you think I'm cute, young, hot, and sexy, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I sure do.
Yeah.
That doesn't
be
mean
old, Stanley.
Okay. That doesn't mean you take over my fucking panel. Be your cute little self, but I'm old. I don't get bewitched by that little Tina energy.
Bewitched?
That's the word I use.
You probably never heard of it.
Okay.
You never heard of Bewitched?
I did, but like, trust me, all Stanley needs is one Viagra and he's good to go. Let's go.
Oh, no doubt. But it won't be tonight, and
Maybe tomorrow.
it probably won't be you. So I'm not going to be all.
Stanley, don't embarrass her now.
Don't embarrass who?
Me.
Hey, you know what? All I have to say is I'm not one of these old. I'm not one of these old YNs.
Period. When a rich nigga wants you.
So anyway, let's get back to the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Well, in closing, I want to tell us if you can correct one misconception about reparations today and what people think it's supposed to be, and you had the audience to listen to it, what would that be, or what would you say?
Boy, again, there's lots of misconceptions, I think. I guess I'd like to respond to a frequently made claim that Black folks have already received reparations because of the lives that were lost during the course of the Civil War,
give me a break.
by white Americans. That was the price that was paid. And so the debt has already been met. So I've got a number of reactions to that. But the first is the ending of a harm is not the same as compensating for the effects of a harm. So, and ultimately, white folks went to war because they refused an alternative. And the
Hold on.
Abraham Lincoln's recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
I will be right back.
Okay.
Give me 15 minutes.
All righty.
Okay, baby.
That the slaveholders accept an arrangement in which they would receive compensation for emancipating their human property. So the Southern slaveholders rejected compensated emancipation. So in the process, they effectively chose to go to war.
Yeah.
And correspondingly, somewhere in the vicinity of half the people who died among white Americans were actually fighting to preserve slavery.
Right.
Okay. But the final point I'd like to make in this context is the Union would not have won if it was not for the participation of Black soldiers. We now have pretty strong evidence that one of the reasons why Lincoln issued the Emancipation
Even though they
Proclamation
didn't,
was to
they denied them shoes and rifles and everything
the
else.
Blacks to support the war effort.
I'm sure that happened, but there was a whole Freedmen's Bureau. A lot of things went right, a lot of things went wrong, but denying them shoes and rifles, no doubt they did. But in other places they did.
Made a movie about
and we know that in the aftermath.
I don't care about movies. Palomino, I don't know. Dude, you are just becoming so annoying in this chat. But something about accountability that I'm not taking. No idea what the fuck he's talking about. Okay, I'm going to start this next video and then I will be right back. I got to go answer the door.
What?
Just give me a minute.
Is going on, family? How is everybody doing? I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful middle of the week hump day for you. I hope you're having a wonderful time. Listen, you know what it is. we always end up in the position of having to tell very, 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 very hard truths that a lot of people just don't seem to want to share. So here we are yet again, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to talk about there's this uneasy tension in the room as it relates to the left and us. Who are us? We're Negroes. For the most part, there's this tension that's going on between ADOS and the left. And this tension has always been here. It has not been resolved. We all know when Bernie Sanders ran, he ran for everything, pie in the sky. Let's give me universal health care. Yes, do everything for everyone. But no, at that time, I know he's since changed his way.
Yeah, and abolish the
but
Senate.
we cannot do anything in terms of reparations. That's what he was saying. And he was trying to explain why. Now, tell me why you want to do everything and you are this radical and you just don't want to do this thing. So that's kind of where we were. Right. And that's still where we are. So the thing you have to understand is that the tension that was there was never resolved. And when the tension was never resolved, then you're still going to have a problem. And that's the problem that you saw today when I saw this whole thing going around about Clyburn having endorsed the person who is running against Abdul for Senate, for U.S. Senate. It is Abdul El Sayed, I think, against Haley Stevens. Is that her name? And Clyburn, you know, I have no love for Clyburn. He's against reparations too. So let's just talk about that. But we have to lean into something. Something is happening. You see, I don't even like, let me tell you something. I don't even like the way we're discussing race, redress, reparations, everything right now coming out of the left. I didn't like it under establishment Democrats, and I don't like it now because everything and every time it always feels like we're sort of a footnote. Everybody wants to fight white supremacy, and we are against the racist and all of these things, but you can't be against the racist and not really speak forthrightly about making us whole. This is not about somebody just saying, hey, this person believes in reparations or having to get asked that at a town hall, although I appreciate that. But it always just seems like, and we've dealt with this with establishment Democrats, right? Where the thing that you have to do to win is dump us. Right? That's the thing that you got to do to win is to make sure you don't spend too much time talking about ADOS. Don't talk about these descendants of slavery too much. Talk about other things. So when we think about it in terms of establishment Democrats, what happens is that when they do it, they just end up chasing white folk. Right? We want the Reagan Democrats and we want to try to pick up as many conservatives as we can. That's what we want to do. We want to be as close to Republicanism without being Republicans, and that's what we want to do. Well, we have a different kind of problem, though, with the left and the new left and the DSA left. Their whole thing is, hey, let's not really focus on race much at all. Let's talk about solutions that help the most people. And since we're a minority, you're still not speaking directly to us. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a problem, and it's especially a problem when we're still, whether you're talking about establishment Democrats, or you're talking about the new left, we're still the base of the party. You have to speak specifically to our issues. You can't keep telling us, well, your issues are included in the issues of everyone else. I'm not coming out in opposition. I want you to know I'm not coming out in opposition to Abdul for Senate, right? I'm not coming out in opposition to him, but I'm trying to speak to the problem that the left is having in terms of how they are speaking to and how they are speaking about race or just not speaking about it, right? So I want to show you, I want to give you an example, right? I just want to give you an example. So I believe, you know, if I am correct, right? I believe only if I am correct. Hold on a second. I got so much stuff open, but I believe if I am correct, this is his website, right? And I just want to ask one question. You know, I've always had a problem with civil rights. I think it should have been just rights for us, but you know, and I'm going down and I'm looking at, hey, I agree with all this stuff. I agree with banning corporate money and I agree with ending gerrymandering. I agree with all of these things, making voter easier. And then I get down to civil rights and civil liberties.
White Democrats are
when
voting Muslims
civil
into
rights and civil
office.
liberties, even what they mean,
There's that.
I understand technically what it means and why I have a problem with it, but I also understand what it's been thought of to mean, right? And how, and the role we play in it. Nobody, so civil rights and civil liberties, nobody is above our Constitution. That's why I'll protect the rights of Americans, regardless of where they live, where their parents are from, how or if they pray, their sexual orientation, gender identity, how old they are, or how much money they make. I believe freedom. I believe in the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of, and the freedom of religion, from religion, and freedom of self-expression. I believe that healthcare decisions should stay between a doctor and the individual and a doctor. I believe that the government should not interfere with the rights to pursue healthcare choices. Healthcare, private and state and federal, should have a right to assess the data unless blah, 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 blah. Patience, I understand, but our rights to do things you might disagree with. That's why I believe that the rights to speak against government's actions, to peacefully protest, are sacrosanct. Hey, here's the thing. I have never seen anybody have it's amazing to me that somebody can have a civil rights agenda and not address us. I'm just saying. Now, right below that, you have immigration, right? And it always occurs to me how, and probably because a lot of the new left are immigrants, or they are the children of immigrants, they know how to talk about immigrants and immigration. The problem is you're in the Democratic Party now. And it's not just a party of immigrants, right? As a matter of fact, we are the backbone of the party. I have never seen anyone talk about civil rights and it just didn't include us at all. That's not anything I've ever seen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a problem. That is a problem. I'm sorry. Listen, I would prefer it be otherwise, because I would love to see somebody. Y'all know I would love to see somebody get Clyburn and all these people out of here. But the problem is, and I think this is the thing that most kind of concerns us, because people think, oh my God, they're just low information voters. Water, sensible foreign policy. Make sure I'm not missing that. Filibuster, Supreme Court. Okay. One of the biggest problems. Hold on. Politics. Money in your pocket. Is this the same one? Jobs and trade, taxing millionaire. Okay. Housing and homelessness. Okay. So I'm absolutely right. Absolutely right. So here's the problem. Ladies and gentlemen. The problem is we don't want to go from, hear me, leftists. We don't want to go from being ignored by establishment Democrats to being ignored by a new group of Democrats. Nobody wants to do that. We're not in for that. We don't want to go from being ignored and having to experience benign neglect from this set of Democrats to all of a sudden we have another set of Democrats who are doing the same thing but a different way. Because I want to tell you something. Our poverty, I'm going to show you the article that came out in 2015, and I talked about it then. Our poverty is not regular poverty. Our poverty is more extreme. Our
She doesn't
poverty is
look
more
like
extreme
she's in
because of where that
poverty.
poverty comes from, because it can be traced all the way back to slavery. The fight for 15 does not fix us. If you give me $15 an hour, I'm still
12th man, what does that even mean?
I'm just saying.
Okay, so to talk about poverty, you have to be in poverty or look like you are?
Basically. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Because if you're not in it, or have you ever been in poverty, Stanley? I don't think
irrelevant.
you have.
Irrelevant to my point. So when
You've
you're
never been in
okay,
poverty.
bitch, I'm talking. Okay, this fucking constant interruption with bullshit points gets old. My question, so if your senator wants to talk about poverty, say in Memphis, he has to look like he's poor to talk about poverty. I'm waiting for an answer. So your conclusion is if the president
I
gets
don't
up,
know anyone in poverty in the United States.
yeah, once again, the inability to fucking focus cogently on a point and develop it is sorely lacking in this YouTube space. If the president talks about poverty, does he have to look like fucking Jed Clampett to talk about poverty?
Jen Clappett wasn't in
Okay,
poverty
god damn it.
either.
You know what? I fucking give up.
Still never going to escape poverty because we're part of a racialized caste. That doesn't help me. It's better than $7. It's better than $8. It's better than $10. And I
He
support it. It's
became
better
a
than $12. I
millionaire,
support it.
didn't he?
That is not a fix. See, I want to, and before anybody says, Yvette, you're starting trouble. No. I want to make sure we understand one thing before anybody's, oh my God, you're talking about it. They're making stuff better. I want them to improve. I want y'all to get better at this. I want the emerging new left to be able to talk about race and redress and reparations the same way they can talk about ICE and immigration. I want you to be able to do it, but I don't trust you. You have a trust problem too. There's a tension that exists between us. Let's talk about that tension. I have a trust problem too. Well, why, Yvette, do you have a trust problem?
Unfortunately, I had to answer the door. So this may need some setting up. The DSA, hold on one second here. The DSA left has a rift between, say, the radical black left and the the DSA left. DSA does not want to talk about race. They want to talk about class. They get accused of being class essentialists. The logic is if a high percentage of Black Americans are poor, focusing on class will basically kill two birds with one stone. You know, you get the white poor, you get the black poor. What DSA can't seem to comprehend is that race and class are intertwined, probably irrevocably, in American culture.
Bless you, Stanley.
Yeah,
hopefully you got some whiskey you can pour over
probably,
the rock.
You know what? When I'm not talking, I'm fine. Talking kind of dries out my throat. So she is basically saying that, hey, if the Democratic Party, and I doubt that it will, to be honest, shifts significantly to the left, they're going to lose a lot of black voters. And that's basically, it is what it is.
Well, I remember, I bring this up all the time. I bring it up all the time because not only did the leftists do it, not only did the socialists do it, I didn't see a bunch of people on the left saying, no, that's not right. This, and you have created a trust problem, and I do not forget. I do not forget, and I rarely forgive. You have a trust. So do you all remember the first people to come out against reparations were not the people on the right? They didn't even know until later on what was going on, and that there was a debate. Then they just came out and called us little monkeys and stuff, like just overtly racist. But the first people to come out and make an argument against reparations were people on the left. To fight racism, we need to think beyond reparations. That's what Mr. Sankara said. Now, he is, for those who don't know, the founding editor of Jacobin magazine and a Guardian U.S. columnist. He is author of the Socialist Manifesto, The Case for Radical Politics in an Era of Inequality. Why would somebody on the left come out so quick against reparations, right? Why? It doesn't make sense to me unless there's a tension, unless there's a competition. It makes no sense to me. You didn't even value us enough to say, hey, Yvette, hey, I see what y'all are doing. Can we have a conversation? You don't value me. You think you can tell me what the solution should be without talking to me. We have a problem. And part of the problem, I think some of y'all just don't want to say that you believe all of us are low information voters, and that's the problem. And you got to get past us. No, the way is not past me. The way is through me. And you got to get through me. You got to talk to me, and you got to speak to my specific issues in this country. You cannot come out and oppose something. We have endured a 400-year plunder. Your people were not even in this country. You did not build it. Fine. So you cannot come out against me, against a movement for something that's been old since before your parents or their parents came. This debt has been old since the end of the Civil War. And when we finally gain modern era traction towards getting it, you come out against it. And we had a bunch of Marxists and people come out and say, that's not the way it has to be class. So I have a problem with you. Same way I have a problem with how Bernie went on the Breakfast Club and opposed it. I have a problem because I don't even think most of y'all understand race. I really don't, because you don't talk about it in a way that sounds like you are informed about this. You talk about it. This article, go back and read this article. We need a political revolution to truly bring democracy and equality to the United States. A political revolution that brings equality does not fix 400 years of plunder, but you don't care. And we have a problem. Listen, if you don't trust the new person, what that thing they say? The new devil. The old devil's better than the new devil. If there's a new devil coming in who ain't even talking about you, but telling you gonna get paid $15 an hour, but doesn't seem to understand your history or how to address it, why would you switch? Well, you're gonna get $5 more an hour. You're gonna get health care. That might be true, and it might not. I might get a bunch of more competition in the labor force. I might get 15 and still be poor because there's nothing to close this lineage wealth gap. So I might get that, and it might not fix me, and you won't care because you don't really understand this. And the left was the main ones opposing reparations, and you think that that we shouldn't have a problem with the socialist left. There's a trust issue. There's a tension. There's a tension there. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a tension there. Okay? I'm just talking about it. So this is the article I was talking about. So black voters influence Michigan Dem Senate primary, right? So it says Michigan. Representative Haley Stevens bid to topple progressive insurgent Abdul al-Sayed for the Democratic Senate nomination is increasingly becoming dependent on the four-term House lawmakers' ability to run up the score among black voters. Recent polls have shown that Stevens is crushing el-Sayed among what has always been considered a key demographic among the Democratic electorate, around 1 in 5 voters. Stevens boasts the support of the Congressional Black Caucus, PAC, and several influential Black Democrats in Washington have been outspoken in favor of Stevens. Right? Now, I want to say something. We are an insurgent group of ADOS people who you have never tapped into. None of y'all, none of the left. You have never taken seriously. You have never wanted to have a conversation with, probably because of our view that immigration, we don't want open borders. We can have immigration, but we cannot have an open borders. We're not with it. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But hey, you can get the new guard or the old guard. It's up to you, but they're not on your team. I'm just telling you. If you understand class and you can never make your way to understanding race, then I just don't know how do you think a person whose grandparents were sharecroppers and who went from slavery, had convict leasing, redlining, KKK, land theft, redlining. How do you think that group is supposed to respond to a group that never prioritizes race, even though we're still the majority, the base of the Democratic Party? Like, we're the base, we're the most loyal voters. How do you think we're supposed to feel and respond to that? I just want you to ask yourself, like, how do you think we're supposed to respond to that? When we look here and see civil rights and not a Negro in sight, how are we supposed to respond to that? Right? Our civil rights, our voting rights movement, these are all things that are on the line, Stephen said in an interview here, later slamming El Sayed for campaigning with congressional candidate William Lawrence, who has made disparaging remarks about Black political leaders. That's not what Michigan's all about and what this moment is all about. She may or may not be the best candidate, but she sounds like she knows how to talk to ADOS. You can't flatten harm. You know how we always say you can't flatten blackness? Like a Nigerian immigrant and a Ghanaian immigrant and a Jamaican immigrant, and they are not the same as ADOS. You also cannot flatten harm. You cannot bring us all into this class revolution as if that fixes 400 years of plunder. We have to talk about the plunder. I have not seen not one of y'all talk about the Tulsa survivors and what they were owed. And now because they're passing away, those who have passed away, what their descendants are owed. Like, I haven't even heard you spoke about that family. And talk about that in terms of when we talk about white supremacy, we talk about racism. Now, when we talk about racism, so much of what you all talk about is ICE and immigration and they had a family or whatever. You cannot talk about, see, the harm in this country in terms of race and racism, the most harm that has been inflicted on any group for an extensive period of time, that is us. There's no way to talk about these things without talking about us. No way. There's no way to talk about and make us believe that you are opposed to racism and white supremacy without talking about us. There's not a way to do it. And there's no way to win us over the way you need to win us over without talking about us and to us. But I think part of the reason you don't want to do that is because you think you might lose some white folk. You think you might lose some immigrants. You think you might lose some people of color. You think you might lose some brown people. But we're still the base of the party. And I can't tell you, well, I could, but you didn't call me. I can't tell you how to prioritize it or how to talk about it.
Party.
I can teach you.
I never heard of that.
What devil's priorities look like. But if that's not in your list of priorities, there's nothing you can do. And you will take the chance of losing. We don't know whether you lose. I think you're doing way better in the polls, Sayed, than they saying. I think you are. But you're taking a chance that you don't have to take. So let me just finish. El Sayed is framing the dynamic as a classic example of the Democratic establishment in Washington boosting their preferred candidates. El Sayed rattled off names of various Black legislators and county executives in Michigan who have endorsed his campaign, including one who recorded an ad touting El Sayed's support for then Vice President Kamala Harris in 2024. Child, I promise you, a lot of us don't care whether or not you supported Kamala Harris in 2024. I promise you, half of us didn't like, or we didn't respond. People voted for Kamala not because they necessarily loved her. They voted for her because they really didn't like Trump and they didn't trust Trump. I promise you, this is not a substitute. Kamala Harris didn't even have in her basket of tools enough policy for us. So just saying that you endorsed her, that is not enough. Just saying you were not a part of the whatever the movement was to your version of the people who were sympathetic with the Palestinians, their version of down ballot, what we did in 2020. Just saying that you did support this Jamaican Indian candidate does not speak to us and what we need. From my perspective, you're both the children of affluent immigrants. So
what about the Arab one?
Because if I'm not mistaken, isn't he the son of Egyptian immigrants or something like that? Like, you all are the same to me. You are not endorsing a
Okay. Have you reached the level of inebriation where you're just going to randomly blurt out shit? What Arabs are you talking about?
Well, there's that one named Ahmed or someone running in Wisconsin. And then there's another one or two that won their Democrat primary. But they're going to have to face Republicans in the primary. And I think this whole Democrat communism thing is going to have to go away because they're not
Okay.
voting for
So
that
you
in
actually
Wisconsin.
believe that communism is a thing in the Democratic Party?
Yeah,
Oh, really? Based on what?
based on all kinds of people elected to office. Then
Okay,
have
no,
you not been
makes
paying
no sense at
attention?
all. Okay, dude, I don't think you might have been paying attention, but you have no clue what the events mean. Okay, what communist has run under the Democratic banner?
Well, they call themselves Democrat socialists, but they're really communists.
No, I
I
think
mean,
that's wrong. Okay, see, this is what I mean by people seeing the events, but not doing any sort of research or anything like that. If they were communist, why not just call themselves communist?
well, they like to hide under that Democratic banner. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
12th man,
They're
you
not
sound
real Democrat.
12th man, you sound insane, under researched, and misinformed.
Okay.
Yep, you sound it.
What's your opinion? And you're welcome
No,
to it.
no, 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 no. It's more than opinion. You literally have no clue what you're talking about.
Yes, I do.
No, I don't think you do. DSA,
What's your
DSA,
opinion?
no. I happen to know a little bit of something, not a lot, about what DSA is. Calling, say, Mamdani a communist, that's not quite right.
Like what?
Communist
Like these are
grocery
children.
stores. How do you feel like a communist grocery store? Doesn't that remind you of Stalin?
Nope.
People like that?
How much do you know about Stalin? Because no, it doesn't.
Well, he enacted communist grocery stores and starved
Where did you
billions of
where
people.
okay, 12th man, again, and I'm gonna be real gentle because you do support the show. You are uninformed. And
Okay.
you just saying it with conviction doesn't make it fact.
Born to
What's your
affluent
opinion?
immigrants.
You're welcome to it.
No.
And how
My opinion is at least a bit informed. Socialists, all communists tend to be socialists. Not all socialists are communists.
Yeah, they are.
No. If you ever read a book on the
Karl Marx said so.
When's
Karl
the last
Marx
time?
said that
What was the last book by Marx you read?
Marxism and communism.
Okay.
Something like that.
Again, you might want to do a little bit more research.
as for all Americans, including American descendants of slavery, why aren't more of them showing up? And I think the problem is you don't speak to something that has been very important in our lives, something that has bottom casted us. You don't speak to this racialized cast because the thing that fixes a poor white person is not the thing that fixes a poor ADOS person. Our poverty ain't the same. We need different kinds of fixes. It's not to say that we don't want the one you have.
Like what?
We like the stuff that you have. We just understand that these things are not enough. And we don't trust you because we don't know you. And I don't trust people. I don't tend to trust people who don't really talk to me. Like, you can put this Negro lady up there, who you can put her up there and she can do it in the commercial. Even in the commercial that he had with the lady, what they talked about, he had people in commercials. Even in that commercial, I didn't hear nobody say nothing about race. I didn't hear it. Like, where is the conversation about race? Did I miss this bold conversation? And maybe it happened and I missed it. I'm not in Michigan. So if there have been multiple ads, if there is an agenda that speaks to us, let me know, because I could be totally wrong. But in the hearing, I paid attention, but I'm not there. I just haven't heard enough. I haven't heard enough. There should be, for a working class party, right, that is trying to improve the lives of poor people and middle class people, we should be at your rallies. And it's not our fault that we're not at your rallies. If you are not saying stuff that's bringing me to the table, speaking to me specifically, like when you call me, say, hey, Yvette. Don't just say, hey, working class lady. Say, hey, Yvette, I got something for you. Don't you like lemon meringue pie? You know what I mean? Bring me over based on something that I need, or I like a little sugar, but not a lot. But I'm just saying, I haven't even heard establishment Democrats. Establishment Democrats lie to us. They tell us, like Bill Clinton did, that they I like black eyed peas just like y'all. I like, I went on outside your heart and I played that horn. They tap into the cultural aspect of us. They promise things and they typically don't deliver, and we're left holding the bag. I'm looking at a world now where we're not promised anything beyond things that workers get. Yes, you all know I've talked about a long time about the money that calcifies at the top and how you have to break up that wealth at the top. So I agree with this billionaire tax. My problem, though, is that what happens with that money? Is redress never a part of what happens to that money? Because what has happened to us in this country has been very specific. It hasn't been an all workers problem. So if what has happened to us in this country hasn't been spread out equally, then what we get in terms of resources and what we get in terms of a fix cannot be something that is equal, because we are not equal, because the harm is not equal. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. I wouldn't lie to you. And here goes the Clyburn quote that everybody was talking about today. He says, I saw a picture. How do you, wait a minute before I say this. How do y'all manage to give Clyburn a win? Of all the people to give a win, y'all gave Clyburn a win? I didn't think Clyburn could get a win. Y'all gave him a win. He came in there. He said, this is the slickest thing I done heard somebody say in a minute. He said, I saw a picture that concerned me. Coming out of Michigan, I saw the rally. Representative Jim Clyburn said in an interview, I didn't see a single person that looks like me. That tells me all I need to know. If you did see a single person that looked like you, it might not have been you, Clyburn, but progressive leaders who support El Sayed say that take doesn't reflect what's happening on the ground in Michigan. I think we're actually experiencing right now is a more nuanced conversation than to simply treat Black people and Black voters in this country as a monolith. But we are a monolith. ADOS are a monolith economically, and so we want to be treated as a monolith economically. Ocasio-Cortez said in the interview, that is a mistake that I think many people are making. No, Ocasio, you wrong. You wrong, girl. You in danger. Well, you ain't, but he is. We are.
She makes a huge mistake if she thinks the Black demographic is a monolith economically. That is not true.
Monolith, and we want our needs addressed, right? I don't know. Why? In the debate he had, they said that in the debate he had, hold on. In the debate he had, there was no mention of quote unquote Black Michiganders. I bet you he mentioned immigrants. I bet you. And that's the tension. The tension is that you do view this country as a country of immigrants and not a country that was built by slaves. And that you don't think that the slaves had to endure something very specific, or your lineage doesn't go back far enough to truly understand it. That is the tension. That is the tension that we're experiencing. You know, when we talk about what happened to us as ADOS, it is visceral in part, not because we're not just reading in books, right? That's not what we're doing. We have had grandparents and we've had stories from great-great-grandparents. And I remember before one of my great aunts passed, I talked to her about, she was talking about the KKK used to just come and just burn crosses in the yard and do all kinds of stuff to just stoke fear. Like, that's a part of our line. And we understand we have families who have been ran off farms and had to go and start new lives. And we understand what we missed out on and what was owed because of what happened. The tension between us and immigrants is not just like, oh, you're new or you lived here your whole life, but your parents didn't, right? And we don't have the same culture. That's not the main thing. The main thing that is that you don't know this from like a visceral standpoint. Like a white person can know that, hey, this person's mama used to work for my house, or this person, this happened. I remember I found out, I went through my granddaddy's stuff and I found out he was in the KKK. Like, they know. The racists are liars, or they want to just maintain that. A lot of racists just want to maintain the racialized caste, but they know it. They understand it. Our concern with you is that you don't know it. You don't understand it enough to really talk about it. So you try to skate over it and make everything be about class at the expense of race, which is really lineage. And that is going to be a problem. And it's your job to resolve that problem, not mine. There are enough people and there are enough books and there's enough places for you to go and get that understanding. But the tension that happens is that I don't feel that we're even being paid enough attention to. Right? It's not enough for you to say, hey, if somebody asks you and you say, yeah, I'm in favor of this. Great. I appreciate that. But if you're not serious, you cannot be serious, and don't lie to me. I'll say this again. You cannot be serious about fighting white supremacy if reparations is an afterthought for you. You cannot. You can't. You cannot be serious about fighting white supremacy if your main talking point insofar as racist and racism goes is immigrants. Because that means your conversation basically starts in 1965. With the Immigration Act of 1965. If you're really serious about talking about discrimination and you're serious about talking about Trump and his racism, if you're serious about having that conversation, the conversation starts at 1619, baby, not 1965. And you have to know how to have that conversation. I need you to have read all the books and watched a lot of documentaries. And you could reach out to people who are also having this conversation. If you believe that this new guard of Clyburn, this old guard of Clyburn is a problem for you, and it is, then there are other people that you should talk to. My DMs are always open. If at Cornelia@ADOSFoundation.org too, you can email me. I would love to talk to this because, listen, I'm not a fan of Clyburn either. But for him to be able to say that, for him to be able to say he looked at the crowd and nobody looked like him was in the crowd. Now, it ain't even about looking like you, because Clyburn, you could look into the crowd and you might look like an African. So even if there was somebody who looked like you, it might not be you. But for him to be able to say that you gave him a gift, and the gift you gave him is not knowing how to reach out to people. And you can't know how to reach out to my people without specifically talking to them and what happened to them. You got to be able to do it. And if you can't do it, you're going to have a problem, and you deserve to have a problem. I'm sorry to say it. Right? You cannot say we're all the same or we're all very similar. You just cannot do that. When we look at your tax returns, ladies and gentlemen, and we see that you earned, according to your joint filing with your wife, in 2025, $686,000. Listen, we don't earn that now. The average salary for us he's a doctor, whatever, it's like $50K, right? And it's not because of anything that we've done wrong in this country. It's because racism, discrimination has been mechanized in this country. That's what has happened to us. That is something that has been done to us. So you can't even understand us from the perspective of income. right? It's not even the same as, hey, listen, somebody from Appalachia probably understands us better than you do because they're poor. Now, our poverty is generational and intentional. But you don't have that. So you have to learn that. And what happens too often is leftists seem to me, just me, this is just me looking from the outside. I'm looking from the outside. Like if you've gone around and talked about race a bunch of times, I just didn't see it, and I apologize. But I feel like I'm pretty attentive, and I just haven't seen it. If somebody's seen it, let me know in the chat. I just have not seen all of these racial conversations. And that used to be, as a Democrat, that used to be something that you had to do. And this is a part of that tension. You used to have to speak to racism against ADOS people. It used to be you had to speak specifically to Black Americans. Even if you wasn't going to do nothing, you had to have that conversation. It used to be, I feel your pain conversation, and we're going to do something. And it wasn't enough, but it was something, because I understand that this group is the most oppressed in this country. There is no oppression Olympics. It's these people. So they're the base of the party. They are the most oppressed. I have to go hat in hand to them. It seems like the left don't want to go hat in hand no more. It seems like when we even form a movement centered around reparations, what happens is the left will come out and tell us that, hey, that's not good for you. Now, mind you, they don't say that to nobody else. I have never seen the left go out and tell Jewish people, Holocaust survivors and their heirs, that they never deserve reparations. I've never seen it. I've never seen them, when Guam got reparations, come out and say the people of Guam shouldn't be getting reparations. I've never seen it. This country is giving out reparations time and time again. I have never seen the left or Marxists come out and say this is not the way to go. So why did I see it when we started this reparations movement in like 2016? Why you come out now and tell us that this is not the way to go? This is why we don't have trust. And I didn't see a whole bunch of leftists come out and say, no, he wrong. We do got to do reparations, because I think one of the tensions is also you don't want us to have more than you. I think there are a lot of people, right? I think there are a lot of people who are very comfortable with the current racial cast. I'm just going to say it. I think there are, and I don't think those are just white people on the right. I think a lot of people are comfortable. Now, the white people on the right are vicious. That's a different thing. But I think there are a lot of people who have come here, they have done well for themselves. And so because they've done well for themselves, they really don't truly believe what we have lived through. They don't understand how this systemic oppression has been mechanized multi-generationally. It's too evil to fathom. And either way, they're comfortable. They just want everybody to, hey, everybody get a certain amount of money. Everybody get a certain amount of unemployment insurance. We're going to have certain protections. We're going to have a billionaire tax. We're going to deal with the Supreme Court. And I'm in favor of all of that. But I understand one thing. I understand that doesn't fix 400 years of oppression. I understand that. That's my problem. I'm in favor of everything they saying. I like what y'all are saying way more than I like what Bernie Sanders be saying. Jim Clyburn be saying. Right? I like, cause he'll talk all the good stuff and then come out against, and then come up with this. I got a 9-10-10 plan that's really reparations, really for poor people. So I don't think that I'm coming out against you. I just understand the tension, and I think the problem that the left has is that they're not going to get ADOS people without speaking to ADOS issues. And I think their belief is we have to come along because even what they're offering is an improvement, right? And hey, increasing minimum wage is an improvement. Healthcare for everybody is an improvement. I'm not saying that these things are not improvement, but what we're risking also is an improvement that erases us. Right? So you'll have an improvement, but then you'll have a civil rights agenda that doesn't mention us specifically and what to do for and about us specifically. That's the problem. And so we end up never getting prioritized.
Let me go ahead and stop this right quick. I've been meaning to say, if you are hearing this on the replay, please make sure you hit the like button as well. And if you're new hearing this on a replay, please subscribe, hit the like button, etc. We'll listen to a couple more minutes. In my opinion, she's a bit repetitive, so we'll move on.
We'll go, like I said at the beginning of the show, what will happen is we'll end up getting first ignored by establishment Democrats for years, then end up getting ignored by the new left. So we'll have two different contingencies of people who ignored us over time. That's a real fear. Getting neglected twice. Never prioritized. That's a real fear. We haven't been prioritized since the civil rights movement. Hey, it just seems to me, I could be wrong. It just seems to me that the left is kind of raceless. Right? I'm telling you the tensions that I feel roiling up. I'm just
Okay, well the problem with this is if black voters are such a cornerstone of the Democratic Party, you're complaining that the left part of the Democrats are going to be like the liberal part of the Democrats. That's the complaint. Well, what are you going to do about it? This is, she's been going on for 40 minutes. What's the plan? I don't find this a very compelling argument she's making.
The left feels kind of post-racial, class only. And if we're going to talk about a specific group, we're going to talk about immigrants, and we're going to talk about ICE. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff you be trying to talk about. That's what it feels like. And this is 2015, and we move past this as if it never happened. We moved past this article. This was one of the most damning articles. It's over a decade old, and nobody fixed it. Nobody did anything about it. But what it showed was that class doesn't fix race. And after this article came out, no leftist ever should have said, well, we're just going to do class stuff, and we expect Negro.
If the article's 10 years old, they're not going to fix shit unless you compel them to do it. Again, this argument is more complaint than plan.
To come along and be happy with it. People have expected us to come along and be happy with it for a very long time. Generations of us have been expected to just go along whatever the Democratic Party hands us and just be happy with it. And the problem is we're not just happy with it. We want something specific. You can't come along as this emerging force and still not offer specific things. It almost feels like you're coming forth as a replacement. You're brown, you have more money. Right? You're willing to do more than a lot of people in the CBC were willing to do. But part of that has to do with the fact that we're wealthless. And so they were getting paid by AIPAC. They were getting bought off because why? Because we have no money. So that's even a complicated story. But I feel like if we let y'all get in place, we won't even have no more March on Selma. Y'all will just, no, y'all will march up to I feel like you'll march up to the Statue of Liberty, which is supposed to be for us anyway, and have an immigrant. I think we will, the American memory, for those who don't know, on Patreon, I think it's Monday, August the 3rd, we're talking about what's the Dixie's Daughters, the Daughters of the Confederacy. That's the book we read, and that's the next book club. So if y'all want to come sign up for Patreon. But it's almost that the thing that those women did with their racist dog-faced selves. I can't say that, dogs are cute. A lot of them are. They kept the memory of this racist lost cause alive. I wonder how much our memory is still here and still matters with this new left. It doesn't feel like there's a real place here. Right? So I just want to bring up this because this was 2015 and it just seems like this has been lost. And it just seems like people are talking about classes. Oh my God, you'll still be better off. We're still back to better is good. Wait a minute. The poverty that poor African Americans experience is often different from the poverty of poor whites. So it's not all about being poor. It's the kind of poor you experience and where that poverty comes from. And you have to speak to that. It's more isolating and concentrated. It extends out the door of a family's home and occupies the entire neighborhood around it, touching the streets, the schools, the grocery stores. A poor black family in.
Yeah. If what she means is a urban poverty is different than rural poverty. Maybe that's what she means. I could agree to that. But anyway, I've had enough. As a matter of fact, I'm coming up on 3.5 hours. Unless it gets hopping, I don't know that I'm going to go much past 4. I'm getting a little peaked. Though, I'm not averse to going longer, but, I'm not going to stay up here and just watch boring videos. So this actually caught my attention. It's called Why the Curse of Ham Doesn't Prove African Inferiority. Who knows? It might be interesting. It might not. But I definitely want to hear at least the premise.
Meeting y'all. How's it going?
Good. Glad to have you.
It is
here.
going.
Yes, we are praying for Kevin in the name.
We're praying for the squirrels running his internet.
Yes. But look, they hold on and wait just a little while. Yes.
Just I need like an all-night prayer visual.
Yes, we do. We need to touch and
His
agree.
internet's a prayer request.
Yes, Krista, do white people touch and agree?
Not that I'm aware of, unless they're maybe in white charismatic churches. I don't know.
But you are of the less melanated population, because like in my grandmother's church, we all had to touch and agree. I was with the agree, but why we gotta touch? Kevin, y'all touch and agree?
Yeah, I've heard the phrase. Yes.
Okay. Making sure I wasn't out there rogue by myself. Elaine says Dutch people don't touch and agree. That's funny.
I can confirm. As a Dutch person, I can confirm.
I can say as a Haitian, they will touch and agree. They'll pop in the name. Yes, they will let you know. You will be in agreement today. So today's family meeting, we're gonna talk about something that's a bit hot right now in the land of tech. And a little difficult to tackle. Krista, before you hopped on, Kevin and I were talking about just the touchiness of the subject and the weight and amount of care that needs to go into it. I think a lot of people, and I'll tell you what we're talking about in just a minute, a lot of people will brush it off like, well, that's just dumb. We don't even need to believe that. But
we don't even need to talk about it, kind of thing.
We don't need to believe it. We don't need to talk about it. That's just that rogue group of people who think like that. And as I was looking up some videos today, I was like, this actually, it's a little more popular than what I was thinking. And so what we're talking about is the curse of ham. The curse of ham was used to justify slavery. It has been used for the subjugation of Africans, of Black people, and it has definitely made its way back into the social media streets recently. It's this whole passage in Genesis 9 of this one event has now been used for the proof, or it's used as the proof text for slavery, for a lot of atrocities. And the general, and I'm forgetting the guy's name now, but there's and I will call it a very thoughtful argument floating around on YouTube right now as to why this view is actually correct. And within many evangelical spaces, we need to understand this view and just accept it as, for what it is. What we're going to do today is we're going to look at this video or look at pieces of this video and see what his foundational thesis is. And toward the end, we'll look at, well, what are the results? How should we, if the thesis is true, how should we participate regardless of what our skin color is, or if you are from the line of Shem, Ham, or Japheth?
This is a very complex topic that needs to be dealt with. What's the word I'm looking for? Thoroughly is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say that it needs to be dealt with thoroughly because the man who is laying out his case is very detailed, very thorough. You can tell that he studies the scripture. That doesn't mean that I say that he's getting this right, but he is someone who is very well, versed in scripture. And it is just thorough enough that it could be seen as a plausible reason for why there's more, black on black crime, and why we're seeing the events in culture that we're seeing, things like black teen takeovers and all of that gets thrown under this idea of the curse of Ham. Well, black folks just like that. And so that's why we want to have this conversation. We want to have it carefully. We might not even, come to a full orbed conclusion. We only got an hour, but we do want to ask questions and get this on your radar in case you hear it or you hear someone else talking about it. You're able to recognize, oh, this is an error and we should have more conversation and discussion about it.
I'm glad you guys are raising, the point of how thoughtful the video is that we're going to be interacting with. I think it's a great example of something can sound really biblical, but we have to really be careful in how we go about things. And we want to try to take care in doing it. Let me look at the scripture. Let me pull that up here. I've got it right here on Bible Gateway. The section that we're talking about is right after the flood, and it talks about how the sons of Noah, starting at verse 18, the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now here the author, who I think is Moses, makes a side comment that Ham was the father of Canaan. And Canaan's going to figure prominently in the story, so the author is kind of front loading, is giving us a foreshadowing of what's going to happen here. These were the three sons of Noah, and they came from the people who were scattered over the earth. And we're going to see in the next chapter, in Genesis chapter 10, how that scattering takes place. So again, more foreshadowing. Noah, a man of the soil, in other words, he was a farmer, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of its wine, so obviously some time has passed because it takes time for a plant a vineyard, for it to grow, for you to be able to harvest the grapes and turn it into wine. So some period of years has passed here between verse 20 and verse 21. When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan. Okay, so now here's the second introduction of this phrase that Ham was the father of Canaan. So the author is giving us another little alert. Saw his father naked and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. They walked backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way, so they would not see their father naked. When Noah arose from his wine and found out that what his youngest son had done to him. So there's a key detail there. His youngest son, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of the slaves will he be to his brothers." He also said, "Praise to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem." So we're having a curse of Canaan to be lowest of the slaves. And then may Canaan be the slave of Shem. So we've got this language in here a couple of times. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem. And may Canaan be the slave of Japheth. So there's a third kind of mention of Canaan being a slave. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years, and Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. So that's the passage that we're talking about today.
Yeah. And so The video we are going to watch is from American Glory. I actually don't know the gentleman's name.
It's Dale
Dale.
Partridge.
Thank you. I was like, I know I have it. But we're just gonna kind of go through the first three sections, really lay up, maybe the first four, really lay up his position. And I've chosen so many snippets because I want us to really understand what he's saying and what he's not.
I know, again, this is kind of a little bit of a departure from what I usually watch, but it's, to me, it's kind of compelling. I just want to know, there have been all kinds of justifications for slavery, including and damn it, hold on. As I said, all kinds of justifications for slavery, including the most recent Sowellian, Thomas Sowellian excuse, everybody did it. To me, that's a justification of slavery.
Not saying, so that we can hopefully respectfully engage with what he is saying and not, create a straw man or things like that. So you want to go, Krista?
Okay, here we go.
So the curse of Ham comes from a passage of scripture that deals with Noah and his three sons after the flood, including a particularly scandalous incident between Noah and his youngest son, Ham. And that led to Noah cursing Ham through Ham's son, Canaan, while Noah blessed his other two sons, Shem and Japheth. And this is vital because Noah is operating in this passage of scripture that we're going to look at as a second Adam in a new earth. And these three sons really are like the federal heads, not only of the three branches of humanity, but also of the many nations that come from each one of these children. Genesis 9:19 actually says, quote, "These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the people of the whole earth were dispersed," end quote. Now, in other words, from these three sons come the three macro races of humanity: the Shemites, which are generally the Jews and the Arabs, the Hamites, which are generally the African peoples, and the Japhethites, which are generally white people, but also include some Asians and Hispanics. Now, what makes this passage so significant is that this prophetic curse and blessing over these three branches of humanity gives us insight into God's providential and civilizational will for these three groups of people. Ultimately, this passage gives us like a broad answer for why the Jews and the Arabs are the way they are, and why the Africans are the way they are, and why the whites are the way they are. And what makes this so compelling is that not only does Scripture support the unfolding of this prophecy, but so does world history and personal experience. And this is particularly helpful for our present American moment because as a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural nation, we're experiencing increasingly difficult and harsher conflict over things like immigration or religion or race or national identity. And so the beauty of this passage is that it gives us biblical answers about reality. And that is exactly what we are so desperate in needing right now today here in America. So let's start this episode on the topic of the curse of Ham.
So one of the things that I found interesting, and I'm sure he probably has an answer for this, is that he hints around to, and I think says it, it's like that through these three federal heads, we can see so much about humanity, but we can see what God's will is for different groups. And I wonder what he means by that, because I would say that God's revealed will for humans is that we worship the Lamb. So what else, like, I wonder how he means that. Like, what is he hinting to or trying to say in that we see God's will for humans? You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I could because I saw something else he posted on X. He believes in the redemptive kingdom and basically like the earthly kingdom, like nation states. And so there is this redemptive thing that God is doing through his church, but there's this kind of this other order that he's created within the nations and the states and the peoples. And his thing, Christ reigns over both, but they're not the same. And so, and so while he would say, well, you're talking about his redemptive kingdom. And he's basically saying this is about God's nature and natural kingdom. And so he has split those two things out from one another. What I would argue is that to me, in their theology, the natural kingdom is a higher priority than the redemptive kingdom. They put more emphasis on it. For instance, let's say we were talking about, the nations coming into America and what that could do in terms of the spread of the gospel. They would say, that sounds great, but the higher priority should be that people stay in their places because that's God's order. So that the natural state kingdom takes priority over the there it is, the natural kingdom. That's what I was trying to think of. The natural kingdom takes precedent over God's redemptive kingdom.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that because I want to try to do our best to accurately present the information. And, that's not to say we're going to do it perfectly, but we're really going to try to do it as best as we can. And so I think to understand kind of the two projects. So what Dale Partridge is talking about here is the natural kingdom, the natural order of things. And this is really what I've called on a few podcasts, like having a theology of nations. And I do think that is a legitimate theological project. I think that there's something to the idea of having a theology of nations. Now, I don't think I agree with what Mr. Partridge is doing here in the conclusions that he comes to, but there is value in talking about a theology of nations. And I think that there's a lot to wrestle with there. I think that Joe Boot makes some great points in his book, The Mission of God, along these lines, and he takes a little bit different approach. I think that Andrew T. Walker is also working on a project of a theology of nations and natural law from a Baptist point of view. So this is something that I think is good for there to be public dialogue about and public conversation. I'm not convinced of this case and how he's laying it out as Shem, Ham, and Japheth being like three federal heads of humanity, but I want to represent his project as fairly as possible. So,
yeah, because what it is there are three federal heads, and there's a curse with no redemption. Is essentially what he's getting at, and I just don't think that's biblical, and that's not the biblical hope. That's not what we're told to preach, teach, treat one another, view one another. Like none of that. And in his example, he gave no New Testament reference. I just want to say that and so it's all about Genesis and it's all about Old Testament. And there's no New Testament or Christ reference, And so to me, that's a major hole when you're trying to put together theology and you're leaving out a whole half of God's word.
Yeah.
Or you're leaving out you're leaving out all of the new covenant.
Krista, can you answer? I always want to say rebuke, but maybe I'm pronouncing it right. What did he mean by federal heads? Because we talk about federal heads and a lot of things like Adam, but then we talk about federal heads in regards to like Christians and CRT and this argument of federal headship. So there's a lot of use of the term federal heads.
Yeah. So typically in theology, the two major federal heads is Adam and Christ. And looking at Romans chapter 5, and that in Adam all died, that he was kind of the representative for the human race and going into the fall. And Jesus is the federal head of the new covenant. And in Christ, there are those who are saved. And that there is a work that is done that then is imputed to the progeny of those federal heads. So we, as Adam's children, receive sin, and as Protestants and Catholics, Christians in the West, would say that we also receive Adam's guilt from that sin. The East looks at what Adam's sin and the impact it had on humanity a little bit differently, but I won't go into that. But there is still a concept of federal headship. Whereas in Christ, we receive righteousness. We receive forgiveness through Jesus's work on the cross. Now, I have to be honest, I have never heard of the concept of federal headship in the context of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So it could be that it's been used in that way by other theologians, and I've just never stumbled onto it. But for me, I've never heard it used in that way. So hopefully that helps.
I mean, that's the only way you can make the curses continuously passed down throughout all of history.
Now, I know there may be people who are kind of shaking their head going, what? Why? He's watching something like this? Believe it or not, it's in small doses. It's kind of fascinating to me.
As if they were representative or something, right? And so that's what he's going with. But yeah, it's very unchristian because in Christianity we say, we would say we were in Adam, but we're now in Christ.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Dale is saying, yeah, but you're also in Shem and you're also in Ham. You're like, there's this other level of curses or blessings that you must deal with that's outside of Christ's redemptive kingdom and work.
So to go back to the chart, there's, where we are on the redemptive side, are we in Adam or are we in Christ? But then in the natural kingdom, are we in Ham, Shem, or Japheth? And that is a different set of headship. So
what if you mixed?
That's why they're against that kind of stuff.
Good. Yeah. I'm a little bit of Ham and a little bit of Shem. Hey. Let me stop playing. Let me stop. Father.
Okay, are we ready for the next thing?
I'm saying there was a lot of that in biblical times too. Let's not act like these people were distinct. Oh, it's so frustrating.
According to Scripture, we are mankind. This is important because today many people, especially Christians, claim there is one race, the human race. However, the Bible never uses the term human race. The phrase human race is a modern term to downplay the ethnic and racial distinctions that God has providentially created. As I've already mentioned, Genesis 9 recounts the first major subdivision of mankind after the flood. And while there are thousands of cultures and hundreds of ethnicities, there are only three races. Shem, the middle child, produced the Shemites, or as we know them as the Semites, and is listed first because in him was the messianic line. Ham, the youngest son, as we see in Genesis 9:24, produced the Hamites, and Japheth, who is called the eldest in Genesis 10:21, produced the Japhethites. Basically, in the same way the Israelites were a family descending from a particular man, we know Jacob, but ultimately Isaac and Abraham, these three macro families come from these three men. Now, you need to know that very few people resist being associated with Shem or Japheth. I mean, Middle Eastern peoples, to this day, still identify as Semitic peoples, and Europeans have shown virtually no resistance to the label Japhethite. But when it comes specifically to the Hamitic peoples, generally the black populations. This term is considered discriminatory because they claim it was used historically to justify inequality. Wikipedia even says, quote, Hamites is the name formerly used for some African peoples in the context of a now outdated model of dividing humanity into different races. This was developed originally by Europeans in support of colonialism. The term was originally borrowed from the book of Genesis, in which it refers to the descendants of Ham, son of Noah, end quote.
I think it's interesting that he claims that the Bible never talks about, there just being mankind. I would go to Acts 17, where it says that from one man God made all the nations, which really does show that that all humans started from one set of people. Not that just because we have different parents or ancestors or skin color, that there would be different races in the sense of like different biologically at our core level, like this thing of difference. That isn't true. I don't think it bears under, I don't think scripture supports that, but I also don't think science supports that.
Yeah, I think what's tricky about what he's saying here is that there's an underlying assumption that we're talking about races. Like, I think we would have agreement with Mr. Partridge that all humans, I'm assuming he believes in historical Adam and Eve, and that the first pair were the first humans, and that they were the first ones created in the image of God. So I'm going to make an assumption that he's not a theistic evolutionist. And so from that first pair come all the humans that have ever lived. And within that diversity that we see through nations, ethnicities, all of that comes originally, like if you work it all the way back, it goes back to the first pair. I think we would agree on that point. I think where there was a quick assumption, it was a claim that I'm not sure how we arrived there, is that Shem, Ham, and Japheth are standing in for races. Mm-hmm. And he specifically used that term of that they are federal heads of different races. And so I would have a question as to whether or not that's what's actually going on in the text. I think that is an assumption that would need to be proven.
Yeah, I also find it ironic how much they agree with critical race theory. Because critical race theory often says Asians are white. And Dale would say amen.
He would put the Asians and I think he said Hispanics or some Hispanics under Japheth. So.
Yeah.
Critical race theory says Asians are white? I don't think so. It may say that Asians mimic whites, basically try to be that model minority. But I don't recall anything like that. Of course, critical race theory can mean anything these days. What I'm talking about is basically a legal theory.
Some Hispanics. I wonder which ones and why. But I think about Indians.
I think that
are
might
Asian,
be a melanated
Indians are
issue.
also, yeah, Indians are Asian, but Indians are also very dark skinned. Are Indians, who do they fall under? Like in these races, what race are Indians? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got a lot of questions of how this, like Native Americans. Where do Native Americans fall? Because he's going to get into civilization. Civilizationally, Native Americans were much like Africans in terms of the evolution, we'll call it, of their civilizations and where they were. So were they cursed? And then why did they get conquered and wiped out by the Europeans? Were they
because the
cursed?
Europeans are from the Shem and the Ham. I mean, the Shem and the Japheth.
But
So
the
I don't
Native
know.
Americans
Maybe
have to
they
be for one of those as well. That's what I'm saying.
maybe they like
Native
Ham
Americans
light.
aren't from Ham.
Yeah, okay. This is starting to sound like a John Galt panel or an Ak Nation. All right. Well, I think that I'm going to wrap this sucker up. As much as I want to go on, I'll probably need to quit while I'm ahead. There are a couple people that are live now. So I'm excuse me. I'll play a little bit more of this. Let me go find the link I'm looking for.
No. Native Americans aren't from Ham. They're not African.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so trying to take this and make it these broad categories of race to fit your presuppositional beliefs about race, it just doesn't fit perfectly, is what I'm saying.
So I want to talk about for a minute on Acts 17:26, Monique, since you brought it up a little while ago, and just show it in the Greek. See if I can. It's not gonna let me look at it like that. All right, here we go. From one man, he made all the nations. And what I want people to notice here is it's ethnos anthropos. And so it's literally mankind or ethnic mankind, like the diversity of ethnicities among mankind is what it's saying in the Greek, that they should inhabit the whole earth. Now, I know that there's some translations that say like uses the word races here, but that would be like using modern language and kind of reading that into the text. But what it's really talking about is, hey, look, all that diversity of ethnicities you see on the earth today, it comes back from one man. So that's just to give us a little bit of perspective. And so a question that I would have for Mr. Partridge is, how did you arrive at the conclusion that we're talking about races as we understand them today? I don't see that.
Okay, so I dropped Creative Solutions link into the chat. I think Chanel or somebody's having a birthday party, which I'm sure will be a real hoot. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm coming up on 4 hours and probably need to just pack it in and not overdo it. So I think Ert's going live. I have no idea. He doesn't look like he's live yet. But I enjoyed it, and I probably do. I want to actually finish up with this. And there are two other videos. One is Michelle Obama and her brother talking to Ketanji Brown Jackson. And there's one other video that I wanted to show, and not going to get around to it tonight. What's up, Lim? I see that Candy Kane is live, and I see Nitish is on the panel. Might actually just go over there to harass. So I enjoyed it. I will see everyone tomorrow. If you happen to catch the show on the replay, please make sure you hit the like button or subscribe if you're new. And I will see everyone later.
Yeah.
With all that we have given them, we
Stanley
should
Cross.
own perhaps at least one half of this asset.
Smart,
The
street
revenues
friendly.
generated because of it.
Coors Light philosopher.
And it's not it, just take out the Obama race part. Why the fuck is the president of the United States boosting cartoons.
Stanley walked tall with a paperback brain. Quotes
Well,
big
I don't know what it was, but you know, the thing is that you know, if you ever go and you kind of read these people's biographies,
in his head, fear in his shoes, library brave.
the MAGA blacks, you get a bunch of MAGA blacks. That's what you get out of it, President. You get MAGA blacks who will put. They will.
I'm a drunk old man with a head shaped like a shroom.
And then the other thing we've forgotten is brevity. That's the main lesson I learned today, and I